Hi, everyone. Welcome to NiceGamLii Chanel. If you find this content interesting or helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new videos. Your support means so much to me, and it helps me create even better content. Thank you so much. Everyone in your footage deserves respect. They also deserve to be known by the world. Lin Guodong seemed to understand my thoughts. He patted my shoulder. Xiaojiang, don't be sad. This is their duty after all. In this promotional video, no one will remember any individual. They represent a group. As long as people feel gratitude towards this group, subtly, they will remember that such kind people exist. That's enough. In fact, they should be thanking you. Your song, Ordinary, not only fits the taste of most young people today, but also conveys positive energy. We, the older generation, can't create songs that resonate with young people, but we are afraid people will forget them. That's why we wanted to collect songs. Lin Guodong sighed and smiled at me again. Fortunately, you created exactly what we want. It showed me the passionate hearts of today's young people. That is truly wonderful. I looked at Mr. Lin, then at the continuously flashing image of people on the screen. I was really moved by them. Indeed, no matter which world we are, there is always such a group of Grandpa Lin, I have no issues with these materials. As for the video production, I'm not an expert in this field. This will require your team's expertise. Honestly, right now, I'm eagerly looking forward to seeing the final video. I said sincerely. I believe that once completed by this team, the final video will be even more impactful than the raw footage. All right. We will finish it as soon as possible. By the end of July at the latest. By then, this wave will sweep across every street and alley in China. Hearing what I said, Lin Guodong nodded happily. Oh, right. I heard from Lin Ya that you have a Douyin account, millions of followers, and you've released 2 songs. When this promotional video is released, we should. Let's co-create a Douyin account. After all, you're also a key contributor to the. Wow, I didn't expect to have my own involved. I thought I was just writing lyrics, just putting my name in the composition section. I never thought even Douyin would be a joint. This is clearly the old man showing his appreciation. You know, when Huayin releases a video, the views, not to mention the revenue from borrowed traffic, it would be enough to keep me well fed. Naturally, I wouldn't refuse. I also felt even more grateful to Mr. Lin. Then I must thank Grandpa Lin. I sincerely thanked Lin Guodong. Lin Guodong waved his hand, saying that I deserved it. When I walked out of the Huayin building, it was already 1 p.m. My brain felt completely overloaded. Those guys, when they start talking about work, they get way too enthusiastic. They're practically workaholics. In the end, it was only because Rainy Yang acted cute and asked that the two of us managed to escape. Lin Guodong originally wanted me to join them for a free meal at Huayin's cafeteria and then continue the discussions. I used the excuse that my brain was already completely empty. With all that professional talk, as an outsider, I really had nothing to no need to linger any longer. The two of us walked side by side. The weather was fine when we arrived, but now a light drizzle had started. Zhang Chengji, shouldn't you be treating me to a meal? You're co-creating with Huayin. You're going to make a fortune. The two of us walked toward the parking lot in the drizzle. Rainy Yang, surprisingly playful, stuck out her tongue mischievously. This queenly woman was becoming less and less like. I raised an eyebrow. You, with your big family and business, still want to squeeze a meal out of an ordinary? Aren't you ashamed? Stingy. Rainy Yang rolled her eyes at me. She quickened her pace and angrily got into the car. I smiled and quickly followed. The more I got to know this elegant lady, the more I felt that she had a really great. In the end, I couldn't escape this meal. Yang Chenglin happily enjoyed a lavish feast at my expense. After the meal, Yang Chenglin drove me to Yinhai Entertainment. This time, we were here to get the My initial goal was Bai Shihan's signing contract. We took the elevator. For some reason, I suddenly felt that Yang Cheng was not in a very high-spirited mood. She seemed a little sluggish, even though she had just enjoyed a luxurious meal. I didn't understand. A woman's thoughts are too difficult. Just like the weather, changing in an instant. When we got out of we headed straight to Yang Shan's office. He had been waiting in his office for a while. The contract was already prepared and placed. He had his ever-present smile on his face. As he watched us walk in, he greeted me. Zhang Xiaoyong, pleasure doing business. Here's the contract. Take a look and let me know if anything needs to be added. I nodded and sat down at the desk. I started reviewing the contract was formed. There were 3 copies, and once Bai Xihan signed, it would take effect immediately. The contents were exactly as previously discussed. Yinhai Entertainment would provide with top-tier research and the greatest degree of freedom. In short, she could do whatever she wanted. No one could force her to do anything. That was exactly what I wanted to see. The contract duration was 2 years. Whether to renew it later would be entirely up to. After reading through the contract, I put it away, stood up, and extended my thank you, Chairman Yang. Pleasure doing business. My impression of him has improved quite a bit. No need to thank me. I value your talent, and you value our company's resources. It's just mutual benefit. Besides, you once promised to write songs for our company, so I won't give you a separate contract for that. I trust Zhang Xiaoyo's character. Yang Shan stood up and shook my hand, saying, I naturally did not decline, but I also made my stance clear. Don't worry, but let me make it clear first. I only write lead songs, and I decide who I write songs for. I won't write for just anyone. Yang Shan's impression of me kept improving, but when he looked at his daughter beside him, he sighed secretly. What a pity. Why get married so young? With Zhang Xiaoyo's talent, if he weren't already a top, I wouldn't have asked him for songs. After all, with his future fame, his songs will be masterpieces. Not everyone will qualify. The collaboration was successfully agreed. Then Yang Shan suddenly changed the topic. Now that the contract is signed, when is Zhang Xiaoyo planning to leave? I wasn't sure why he asked that, but I answered immediately. I'll pack up and book a ticket. Leaving soon. There's nothing left for me to do here. Chairman Yang, is there anything else? No. I wish you a safe journey. Yang Shan said with a busy smile, but to me that smile looked strange. Why did he seem so happy when he heard I was leaving? I didn't overthink it. I stood up and said goodbye. Yang Chenglin walked me to the hotel entrance. She didn't follow me. Ever since entering Yinghai Entertainment, her mood seemed off. Zhang Chengji, I won't see you off at the airport. Go on your own. I have something to do, so I'm leaving. I turned and waved goodbye. Take care on the road. Then she turned around and walked back into. Yang Chenglin watched my back. For some reason, she stepped on the gas and drove away. Finally, I can go home. I miss my little baby. That was the thought that came from my heart. I quickly packed my belongings. There wasn't much, just a couple of changes of clothes, booked a flight, checked out, and got a taxi all in one go. In Zhongcheng, I carried bags full of gifts. Stepping into the familiar old neighborhood, my steps felt lighter. Pushing open the long-missed door, I took a deep breath. The living room was silent. Bai Shihan and Nai Nai seemed to be out. Not seeing the people I longed for right away, I felt a little disappointed. But in the next moment, the bedroom door suddenly opened. Bai Shihan rubbed her sleepy eyes. She walked out with a drowsy smile. The moment she saw me, she woke up instantly. She was wearing a spaghetti strap. One strap had slipped down her arm. Her hair was messy from sleep, disheveled. Her lips looked just like a sleeping beauty's. We both froze. Bathed in the golden sunset, we quietly stared at each other. Then my face lit up. Broad smile. I'm back. Bai Shihan's cheeks slowly turned red. She stood frozen, not knowing what to do, feeling flustered, but with a faint sweetness in her heart. She lowered her head and whispered. Still, she subconsciously pulled the fallen strap back onto her shoulder. Oh, right, this is for you. I happened to see it for sale by the roadside. It smells really nice, so I just bought a bouquet. It looks beautiful. Bai Shihan pursed her lip. She stepped forward, gently taking the lavender bouquet from my hands. Her face was already flushed red. This was the first bouquet of flowers I had ever given her. Lavender symbolizes redemption and hope. She really liked it. Thank you. Bai Shihan gathered her courage. She lifted her head and looked straight into. Have you eaten yet? I suddenly smiled. Not yet. You guys haven't eaten either, right? I'll make dinner. You go wake Nai Nai up. Bai Shihan originally wanted to cook herself. I had just come back from a long trip but when she saw my determination and remembered that my cooking was much better than hers, she finally nodded. I'll wake Nai Nai up. Nai Nai was sprawled out, sleeping soundly on the bed. Bai Shihan carefully picked him up in her arms. He didn't even stir, until Bai Shihan brought the little one to me, kissed his small cheek, and whispered softly in his ear, Nai Nai, wake up! Daddy is home. Nai Nai suddenly moved. He looked around sleepily. Then his little eyes suddenly lit up. Daddy, hug me. Nai Nai missed you so much. The little one clung to me like a koala, holding onto my neck tight. He refused to let go. Even when I went to the kitchen to cook, he wouldn't let go. In the end, it took Bai Shihan's stern expression, plus the temptation of a new toy I had bought, to finally get him to let go. After a while, dinner was served. The whole family sat around the table in warmth and laughter. After dinner, I played blocks with Nai Nai. I took this opportunity to ask about how things were at home. The little one told me everything, especially when it came to Bai Shihan. The little one completely sold his mom out. Mommy can be bossy too. I saw it. Mommy often watches daddy's singing videos and secretly smiles covering her mouth. I really didn't mean to ask about this, but Nai Nai said it so loudly, completely unaware that Bai Shihan had already stormed. At this moment, her fair face was as red as a ripe apple. Her eyes were full of meaning. She looked down at the little traitor who had just betrayed her. Nai Nai noticed Daddy suddenly stopped talking. He looked up in confusion and saw Mommy's bright red face. With a squeak, he hid in my arms, muttering, "I can't see Mommy. I can't see Bai Shihan." Bai Shihan, both annoyed and amused, explained, I didn't. Liar, Mommy's a liar. Lying is bad." Nai Nai buried his little face in my chest. Muffled, he shouted, making Bai Shihan look like she was. I quickly raised both hands and exposing the little traitor completely. No, no. I believe you. A wise man knows when to adapt. But poor Nai Nai. He was instantly caught by Bai Shihan and playfully punished. The little guy never expected that Daddy would betray him to Mommy so quick. I turned a blind eye. For Bai Shihan's happiness and the prosperity of this family, I had to sacrifice my little baby just this one. The family played around together for a while. In the end, Nai Nai was left sulking alone, taking all the blame. I patted his little head, then stood up. From my suitcase, I took out a paper document folder and placed it in front of Bai Shihan. Mission accomplished. Take a look. This is the Yinhai Entertainment Con. Bai Shihan lowered her head and picked up the folder. She flipped through the contract inside. Reading all the way to the end, her hands started to tremble slightly. This was a contract she never even dared to. Top-tier treatment, absolute creative freedom. Even if she had never taken a break from singing, she still wouldn't have gotten a contract like this. She didn't know how I did it. In just a few days, what had I gone through? How much had I sacrificed to exchange for a contract so unreal, so unbelievable? Bai Shihan lifted her head. She looked straight at me. Tears welled up in her eyes. She bit her lips and just stared at me. I still had a gentle smile on my face, as if all of this was effortless. After a long pause, Bai Shihan finally spoke softly. "Zhang Chengji, actually I don't have to sing." Her voice was quiet, but there was no hesitation. She was firm. I frowned slightly in confusion. She loves singing. She always wanted to sing. What did she mean now? I couldn't understand. I didn't get it. What was going on in this woman's mind? Why? Didn't you always want to sing? Now that you have the chance, why are you hesitating? My tone grew heavier. This was the first time I had spoken to her like this. As someone who had been single my whole life, I couldn't understand. Bai Shihan's thoughts were in turmoil. Suddenly, she felt that this life was already enough. If she really went back to singing, she was afraid things would change. Afraid that life would never be the same. Bai Shihan bit her lips gently. She stared at me. Tears rolled down her cheeks. After a while, she finally whispered, "I'm scared. Afraid things will change for the worse." This was the first time Bai Shihan, directly and honest, told me what she was truly afraid of. I was stunned for a moment. Then suddenly I laughed. A warm, gentle smile. "What do you take me for? I'm telling you seriously. You can go without worry. No matter what happens, nothing will change. I'll take care of the kids at home. After all, I'm fully prepared to be a full-time dad." Bai Shihan never expected me to say that. She froze as I gently wiped away her tears. It had been too long since she had experienced such intimacy. She immediately lowered her head, shy. I had thought she was still scared of all these messy concerns. But now I understood. I knew Bai Shihan was simply afraid of change. After staying home for so long, it was natural to feel this. So I spoke again. "I mean it. Leave Nai Nai to me. I'll take good care of him. And you saw the contract. You have so much freedom. You can come back anytime. You don't have to worry about home. Just take care of yourself while you're out." As I spoke, Bai Shihan wasn't really listening. Her mind was still stuck. On the moment, I gently brushed her cheek. Meanwhile, on the sofa, Nai Nai had already been secretly watching his parents. The little one didn't know what was happening. He only knew that Mommy seemed happy. So he pounced onto my lap. Looking up with a bright idea, he said, "Daddy! Nai Nai wants to sleep with Daddy and Mommy tonight." The moment he said that, I was stunned. Bai Shihan's head jerked up. She stared at the little one in shock. Her heart pounded wildly, almost leaping out of her chest. "Please, Daddy? Nai saw that I had. Nana started acting spoiled. She rolled around on my lap. I swallowed hard. I turned my head to look at Bai, whose neck was already flushed red. Her eyes avoided mine. You have to ask your mom if she agrees. But how should I respond? Bai Shihan was so embarrassed that she hurriedly stood up and walked towards the bathroom. I'm tired. I'll go freshen up and get ready for bed. Bai Shihan fled in a panic. Only Nana and I were left in the living room. We stared at each other. I was completely clueless about what to do. Little Taoist Nana suddenly jumped off my lap. She wrapped her arms around Mom said, as long as Dad is ready, it's fine. Did Bai Shihan really say that? I took a deep breath of the milky scent on the little one. I braced myself. It was all for Nana. Nothing else. After a long while, Bai Shihan finally came out of the bathroom. She silently walked back to her bedroom. When passing through the living, she didn't even glance at the sofa. Only then did I pick up Nana and I went into the bathroom. I helped the little one wash up. Then I quickly freshened up myself. Only then did I carry Nana out. At that moment, my heart started pounding. From the living room to the master, the short distance felt like an eternity. My mind went completely blank. A faint, pleasant fragrance filled the room. It smelled really nice, and in both of my lives, I had never experienced something like this before. I really wanted some. What should I do? Bai Shihan had already crawled on. She looked as if she had fallen asleep. She lay on her side facing away. I couldn't see her expression clearly, but her glistening, flushed earlobe revealed her true feelings. The sound of the door closed. Shihan's body trembled slightly, but she still didn't get up. At this point, I had completely given up. It was already like this. No matter how nervous I was, I might as well just relax. Thinking this way, I indeed felt much calmer. I placed Nana in the middle. Then I sat on the other side of the bed. Old Guo Nana started telling her a bedtime story. Tonight, Daddy will tell Nana the story of Snow White. A long time ago, there was a little princess as cute as Nana. Her skin was as white and delicate as snow, with a rosy glow like a red apple. Her hair was as black and shiny as the night sky, so her mother named her Snow White. My gentle voice echoed in the room. Bai Shihan's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her anxious heart gradually calmed down with the story. Slowly, she relaxed. Eventually, she unknowingly fell asleep. Just like her, Nana also drifted off to sleep while listening to my. The night grew deeper. Seeing their breathing gradually steady, I finally turned off the light. Then I got under the blanket and laid. The next morning, my biological clock remained precise. Instinctively, I wrapped my arms around something soft. Then I suddenly froze. When did Nana grow this big? Gulping, I swallowed hard. I looked under the blanket, but Nana was nowhere to be seen in my arms. It wasn't the little one. It was Bai Shihan. I was completely dumbfounded. When did this happen? How did she end up in my arms? A faint fragrance lingered at the tip of my nose. The softness and warmth in my arm made my heart race uncontrollably. Unconsciously, I lowered my head, bringing my face closer to Bai Shihan. I could feel her warm breath, gently brushing against my face. Confused, I realized the distance between us had vanished. I could clearly see the rosy tint beneath her smile. I just sat there, frozen. A fierce internal struggle. Then I saw his long eyelashes flutter gently. I was so startled that I quickly sat up straight again. I quietly pulled back my arm that was trapped under him. Hunched over, I carefully got out of bed and slipped out of the bedroom. Standing in the bathroom, washing up, I felt this is way too torturous for an early morning. What I didn't know was, as soon as I stepped out of the bedroom, Bai Shihan, lying on the bed, secretly opened his beautiful. He let out a slight sigh of relief. Covering his burning face, he buried himself, looking completely flustered. The moment I sat up, Bai Shihan woke up. He didn't realize when exactly he had moved into my arms, and even used my arm as a pillow. So embarrassing. Only when he felt my breath brushing against his face did panic rise in his heart. What does he want to do? Is he trying to steal a kiss? What should I do? Bai Shihan, in a panic, was scared to death but didn't dare wake up. He could only continue pretending to be. Thankfully, I stopped myself, and otherwise, he really wouldn't know how to face me. But when I truly withdrew and left, he felt a vague sense of disappointment. Bai Shihan didn't know if he was ready. He only knew that his heart was in chaos. After a long while, curled up under the blanket, Bai Shihan let out a deep sigh. Just let things take their course. He stayed in bed until 8 a.m. Hearing the sound of the door opening again outside, he finally got up from bed, tidied himself up, and walked out. I was already in the kitchen, preparing breakfast. Seeing Bai Shihan come out, I greeted him with an awkward expression. Good morning. Bai Shihan, also looking a bit awkward, replied. Morning, he said quickly. Before heading into the bath, I turned back and continued making breakfast. I didn't expect Bai Shihan to finish freshening up. He walked straight into the kitchen. "I'll help you cook," Bai Shihan said naturally. Skillfully, he took the bowl from my hand, helping me wash the ingredients. I was slightly, but I quickly reacted, gladly accepting his kindness. I turned to the side and started. The two of us worked seamless, like a married couple who had lived together for years. The small kitchen felt incredibly warm at that moment. 20 minutes later, the whole family enjoyed a happy breakfast together. After breakfast, Bai Shihan saw a beautiful hairstyle. It would look great on Nai Nai. Coincidentally, the little one's hair had grown quite a bit, so he coaxed and tricked Nai Nai into going out for a haircut. Meanwhile, I cozily settled onto the sofa, took out my phone, and started scrolling through TikTok. With my wife and child out of the house, this moment, I felt like I had reached the peak of my life. After watching just 2 videos, I saw the latest teaser for Only If Frequent. It was already out. The speed of releasing teasers was in. The full video was supposed to, but today was only the 26th, and the teaser was already. The teaser for Only If Frequent was simple. Just a few video clips paired with 2 lines of yet. It was enough to whet the moment I clicked on the teaser video, my own voice started playing from my phone. Falling into the dark, plunging into the abyss, a face covered in dirt, no divine halo. Clenching tightly to the ordinary, followed by 3 firefighters. They held fire hoses facing the raging flames. Their faces covered in ash, their eyes filled with unwavering. The video abruptly cut off there. Only a deep voice resonated. They are nameless and ordinary, yet they deserve to be remembered. I couldn't understand it at all. Lin Guodong clearly said that the children would be the main sin. Why was my voice in the teaser? But that didn't affect the teaser's popularity. It was going viral online. A single clip, 1 line of lyrics, a lifetime story, short yet deeply moving. The teaser had only been out for 2 hours, yet it had already climbed the trending chart. This was also thanks to major media outlets competing to cover it, using all sorts of catchy headlines. Promoting the teaser the teaser also caught the attention of major influencers. Everyone knew that once the full version was released, it would be a massive, so they all started sharing it. As influencers continued reposting the teaser, its popularity grew exponentially. The comment section was filled with people from all sharing stories about the ordinary heroes around. At that moment, the sound of the door opened. I put down my phone and looked toward. It was Bai Shihan holding Nai Nai's hand. Seeing Nai Nai's new hairstyle, my eyes lit up. Her 2 little pigtails had been tied up into adorable little buns. Her soft, wispy bangs gently touched. She looked like a little fairy straight out of a storybook. So adorable. I felt my heart completely melt. I quickly stretched out my hand. "Who is this little fairy? Come here and let me hold you." The little one grinned ear to ear, but then shyly ran behind Bai Shihan, clinging to his leg, burying her face into him. Her tiny face Bai Shihan chuckled at her reaction, amused at this adorable father-daughter interaction. "Oh, she's shy, huh?" I wasn't going to let her get it. Right now, I just wanted to hug my precious daughter. I stood up, walked over to Bai Shihan, and crouched down. Pretending to be surprised, I said, "Oh my, this little fairy is actually my sweet daughter." Without waiting for Nai Nai's protest, I scooped her up into my arms. No matter how I looked at her, I adored Nai. "Don't you want Daddy to hold you? That would make Daddy really sad." "I don't want Daddy to be sad." The little one immediately hugged my neck, snuggling into my arms, afraid that rejecting me would hurt my feelings. Overjoyed, I gave a big kiss on Nai Nai's soft cheek. Her little act of affection was too adorable. It completely melted me. My heart felt as sweet as if I had eaten candy. People say daughters are their father's little treasures, and that couldn't be more true. All right. Stop being so lovey-dovey. Hurry inside. I happily carried the little one back to the sofa, scooped a piece of watermelon, and fed it to her. Then turned to Bai Shihan and asked, "By the way, you're reporting to Yinghai Entertainment in early August." Hearing this, Bai Shihan smiled and nodded. "Before that, I need to pick up Lei and then find Sister Yun. If they find out I'm making a comeback, they'll definitely be thrilled." As he spoke, a genuine smile appeared on his face. When he left the industry the ones he felt most guilty toward were now, even if it wasn't for his own dream, for their sake, he had to give it his all. I nodded in agreement, gently ruffling Nai Nai's hair, but in my mind, I was wondering what kind of song I should write. This was his first battle after it. It had to be an absolute success. Bai Shihan had an amazing voice. Whether it was upbeat songs or emotional, he could handle them all. So there were too many options. For a moment, I couldn't decide. After thinking for a while another thought crossed my mind. "By the way, let's buy a car in a few days." "No, let's buy 2. In a month, Nai will be starting kindergarten. It'll be more convenient for drop. Also, although Yinhai Entertainment will provide you with an in your free time, you still need a car when going out. Bai Shihan pondered for a moment and thought that buying a car in the past, staying at home all the time, it didn't matter whether there was a. But now, going out frequently, not having a car is indeed. However, he was also worried about whether, after all, the earnings from the first had already been spent on furniture. And after going out again, he wasn't sure how much was left. Even though before his last trip, he had linked his bank card to Bai Shihan's WeChat, Bai Shihan still didn't know the exact amount of money in it. Nai is about to start kindergarten soon, which will be another expense. After some contemplation, Bai Shihan lifted his head, his brows revealing a hint of concern. Let's buy a car first. It'll be convenient for you to pick up and drop. As for me, the company provides a car for now, so I probably won't need one. I'll consider getting one after I earn more money. Bai Shihan thought that after releasing songs and an album, he could consider these expenses once he had some in. Thinking about this made Bai Shihan a bit worried again. After all, he wasn't even sure when he would get a chance to sing. Although Yinhai Entertainment's contract provided top tier, it also included a condition that songs must be self. He didn't know how I had negotiated with the company. With top tier resources given, why hadn't they arranged songs for him? He was a little confused. After all, he didn't know many lyricists or composers. Thinking about composer, Bai Shihan suddenly froze. Then, he looked at me with a calm wait, he knows how to write songs, even though he wasn't sure when I learned it. The 2 songs on Douyin. One of them was even something I taught Nai on the spot. I naturally understood Bai Shihan's concern about. I calmly waved my hand and reassured him. You don't have to worry about not having enough money. Let the bullet fly for a while. In a few days, the money will. July 30th happens to fall on a Sunday. As long as Ordinary Comfort goes live at 8 a.m. right on time, co-created and launched by Huayin and the Xiyik, Huayang, and several other departments will simultaneously. The lineup can be described as unprecedented. Of course, no matter how luxurious the line, what the audience cares about is the quality. Only if the quality meets expectations will people be willing to pay. However, there has been a saying circulating online. Shi Productions' premium works to be. Although I have only uploaded 2 songs, they have captured the ears of countless fans. People have also been satisfied with the quality of my comp. Now, seeing that the lyrics and composition of this MV, everyone's interest was immediately. This mysterious figure either remains silent or astonishes everyone. Thus, audiences eagerly clicked on the MV, wanting to witness its grand. In an old small theater in Zhengzhou, my family of 3 had already snuggled up on the sofa. I cast my phone screen onto the TV, opened Douyin, while Bai Shihan and Nai were still in the. All they knew was I had dragged them out of bed early in the morning, saying I had something great to show them, but they had no idea what it was. I clicked on the song's MV, and the whole family turned to watch the TV. The moment the MV screen appeared, Bai Shihan and Nai instantly fell silent. They were a bit surprised. On the TV screen, 4 bold characters appeared. Ordinary Comfort, and below, the lyricist and composer were all credited. Moreover, the MV was an astonishing 7 minutes. Even I was a bit confused, wondering where such a long piece had come from. Earlier that morning, Lin Guodong had wanting to show me the final cut, but I didn't agree. I wanted to share this moment with my family. Besides, I also had complete trust in Lin Guodong's professional. Bai Shihan turned to look at me, his eyes filled with amazement. He was surprised that I had written another, and this time it was co-produced with. That was quite impressive. Had I really done so much while I was away? Even he had no idea. Bai Shihan shifted his gaze back to the TV, curious to see what I had been doing. Behind his back, the MV title sequence had ended, and the screen now showed a group of lively 10-year-old children. They were all wearing matching black t-shirts. Among them, a middle-aged teacher sat playing the piano. As the piano notes filled the camera shifted, a close-up focused on a young girl. Her eyes were full of emotion. She reached out her hand as if gently calling, then started to sing. The scene shifted. A group of firefighters dressed in orange uniform stood with determined face. They carried rescue equipment and used their bodies as bridges to cross through rushing. The camera shifted again. This time, it focused on another young girl. Her eyes were slightly red. She lowered her gaze and softly whispered. Her image gradually blurred, transitioning to a family gathered around eating dumplings. The TV played a festive reunion program. Yet the room remained silent. Only the grandmother sitting at the head of the table held back, staring at the TV. On the screen was an image of her grandson's heroic sacrifice. Then, two young girls appeared one after another, singing softly. As they finished their line, their figures faded away. A new scene revealed an ordinary-looking man, but his eyes gleamed with determination. He was staring at a pickpocket on a crowded bus. The moment the thief made his move, the man grabbed him firmly. However, the bystanders around them, but they were afraid and kept their all just watching coldly. In an instant, two more thieves surrounded the man. The situation suddenly became unfavorable. Countless people watching the video at this moment couldn't help but feel anxious. Their fists clenched tight, eyes filled with tears, wishing they could jump into the video and help him take down the thief. But at that moment, the video screen faded out. The teacher was just silently playing the piano. Then, one of the little girls started singing again. The scene abruptly shifted to a doctor, exhausted and weary, handed a newborn baby to an elderly couple. The elderly couple burst into tears of joy. They kept thanking the doctor. A beating heart grew into vines, willing to fight against. The baby gradually grew up, and he was no one else. He was the man who caught the thieves. At this moment, he was facing 3 thieves, yet he showed no fear. The scene shifted again. 2 little girls appeared. They stretched out their hands, calling out. Everyone was deeply moved by the music and the visuals. They regretted not realizing sooner that there were so many amazing people around them. Throughout the entire MV so far, the heroes who appeared in it had not spoken a single word, but their actions alone were deeply imprinted in the hearts of all viewers. The scene continued. All the children joined in a grand chorus. Their pure voices sang of these deeply touching stories, leaving everyone in silence. They used to follow celebrities online, joke around on the internet, but for the first time, something inside them was ignited. At the end of the song, all the children sang together in unison. With no regrets in this life, the flame of life had been lit. The screen faded. Then a boy's voice suddenly remembered, "We are not heroes. We are just doing what we are supposed to do." I curled up on the sofa, rubbing my teary eyes. I knew this video would be deeply moving, but I never expected it to be this overwhelming. By now, this video had made countless viewers online burst into tears. It also completely shattered their... At this moment, no one cared about the video's market reception. They just watched silently, feeling the quiet sorrow, shedding silent tears. After the man's words ended, a voice suddenly echoed in the dark screen. "Xiaojiang, should we go with just the piano? This song only needs piano accompaniment." Such a simple question and answer, yet the boy speaking sounded strangely familiar to many viewers. They listened carefully, then suddenly realized, wasn't this the uniquely gentle voice of Shi? So was this an Easter egg? Would Shi himself appear? As expected, a rapid montage of discarded footage flashed across the screen. Then, a voice full of unique tenderness, matching the images perfectly. Once again, it broke down the emotional wall until the last frame disappeared. Yet Shi himself never appeared. He remained as mysterious as, but everyone felt completely fulfilled. The figures in this video had been deeply imprinted in their hearts. For a long time to come, they would never forget what they had witnessed. Even long after the official release, no one had clicked like. No one had left a comment. It was as if everyone had collectively, at that moment, in the Huayin conference, Lin Guodong kept staring at the real-time online statistics. He couldn't understand why were over 100 million people watching, yet no one had liked it. Did this mean people didn't approve of the video? Lin Guodong felt disappointed. He wiped his slightly reddened eyes, struggling to accept the situation. However, in the next moment, the video's data suddenly skyrocketed. The likes and comments exploded like a flood. An unstoppable surge. This was the first time in Douyin's history that in such a short period, the data skyrocketed like an eruption. In just a few breaths, the likes surged from 100,000 to 5, then 10 million, 20 million. Douyin experienced its first ever comment lag in history. It seemed like nothing could stop the endless stream of likes. Right after, 5 trending topics emerged, all of them related to this MV. Inside the Huaijin conference, a sudden burst of cheers erupted. Lin Guodong clenched his fists in excitement, silently watching the numbers climb rapidly. So it wasn't that people weren't moved. They just needed time to process their emotions. And just like that, the storm of this MV swept across. The speed of its rise even caught the experienced Lin Guodong off guard. At this moment, he felt immensely grateful for choosing these clips. If paired with an ordinary song, it would never have reached such heights. In just 1 hour, Huayin's platform recorded over 1 billion streams, while Douyin's views soared past 2 billion. Meanwhile, I was holding 2 beautiful girls, gently stroking one's head, patting another's back. I wanted to say something, but didn't know what, because I too was deeply moved. Though I had given this song to Lin Guodong, the entire video was Huayin's creative team's work. I hadn't watched it in advance. All I could say was Huayin had given this song the perfect home. Nestled in my arms, Bai Shihan sobbed softly, clutching my shirt, wiping her tears and snot on it. Her pitiful, teary-eyed face made my heart ache. It's just a video. If you want to cry, then but why look so aggrieved? Bai Shihan finally realized what I had been busy with, creating this song, collaborating with Huayin, and securing that seemingly impossible contract. She had no idea what I had been through. She felt upset that I had done so much outside and never told her when I Jiang. Did Cheng Yi suffer because of this? Did he face hostility from others? How much effort did he put in to create such a song? She knew nothing. She had just been sitting at home, reaping the rewards. All right, stop crying. Are you skipping lunch? I'll cook something delicious for you. Can you hold Nai for a bit? I patted her back gently. She was exhausted from crying. Soon she fell asleep in my arms. Got it. Bai Shihan wiped her face on my shirt again before slipping out of my embrace. Pouting, she held Nai in her arms. At the same time, in the center of Jiang City, Liu Qian's expression was so dark it could drip water. Her agent, Yuan Jie, looked equally grim. The atmosphere in the room was only Tao Lele was chuckling in the corner, clearly enjoying the misfortune. Liu Qian glanced at her agent. She found this aging woman more useless than ever. My song, what's going on now? Why was it postponed until we already invested in the promotions? I just bought trending spots and now look, they silently delayed my song. And worse, they took over all the trending spots. Yuan Jie, this was your responsibility. You owe me an explanation. Yuan Jie's face darkened even. This situation had already frustrated her, and now Liu Qian was yelling. Her anger flared. An explanation? You want an explanation from me? For a moment, her anger burned even hot. An explanation? You want an explanation? If you have the guts, go demand one from Huayin. Why take it out? The original plan was for their event to conclude in mid-August. But out of nowhere, Xi's song appeared, forcing Huayin to release their MV early. If Yuan Jie didn't rely on Liu Qian, she wouldn't even bother dealing with her. What do we do now? Liu Qian still sounded aggressive. Yuan Jie frowned. They were in the same boat now. Turning against each other would. What else can we do? We wait for the storm to pass. Then we release your album. But the company probably won't allocate as many resources. We'll have to figure things out on our own. Liu Qian knew this was the only, but she couldn't help feeling resentful. She cursed Xi in her mind. He had stolen the spotlight that was supposed to be hers. As she turned around, she saw Tao Lele in the distance, covering her mouth, trying to stifle a laugh. Tao Lele, can't you see the mess over here? Get over here and help clean up. Her sharp, piercing voice made Tao Lele instinctively cover her ears. Oh, my bad. But my contract ends today. I already submitted my resignation. Ha, I'm done serving you. Tao Lele burst into laughter. Some people were happy, others were even happy. After lunch, our little family happily took a cab. Today, we were going to the 4S dealership even though the revenue from the MV collaboration with Huajin, my savings, were more than enough to buy a car for daily use. The 3 of us arrived at the dealership. Welcome. Sir, ma'am, do you have any preferred models in mind? The sales representative's eyes lit up. With years of experience, he knew when a family of 3 came shopping for a car, there was an 80% chance. I nodded. Back at home, Bai Shihan and I had researched in advance. We chose the model before coming here. Do you have the H9, the fully loaded version? The moment I mentioned a specific model, the sales representative's eyes lit. The fully loaded H9, even the cheapest version, costs over 300,000 yuan. Sir, We have the fully loaded H9 in stock. I confidently pulled out my bank card and my driver's license, handing them to the sales. I'll take the car. Paid in full, swiped my card, and left the dealership. By the time we got home, it was already 5 p.m. Just as I arrived, I received a call. Hello? Talented genius, congratulations. That MV and news about you are everywhere online now. You're officially famous. Thanks. But I wasn't aiming for fame. Your company, on the other hand, must have made a killing from this. I chuckled. This song was presented to on behalf of Yinhai Entertainment. Their company must have reaped huge benefit. The effects might not be immediate, but over time, they would become more evident. From now on, whenever Huaiji, they would think of Yinhai first. All thanks to you, our talented composer. But let's talk business. When is Bai Shihan coming to report? On the other end of the line, Yang Chenglin teased me. Before laughing and asking, I glanced at the sofa, where Bai Xian was secretly eavesdropping on my conversation. I smiled. In a couple of days, by the 3rd at the latest, still some things to take care of. Once they're settled, she'll be all right, then I'll be waiting to welcome her personally. Young Chenglin was curious. What kind of woman could make me run around? She must have quite the personality. The next day, Bai Shihan went to meet Lele and Yunji. Tomorrow, she would bring them to Yinhai Entertainment. She drove near the Tianmei Entertainment Building. She then called Tao Lele. She wanted to surprise him. The call was quickly answered. Bai Shihan had a smile on her face. Even her voice sounded brighter. Lele, guess where I am? Tao Lele was in his rented apartment, packing his things. After resigning, he had planned to return home. He had already made up his mind. If this place doesn't keep, there will always be somewhere else. Shihan-jae, if you're not at home, where else would you be? Silly, I'm downstairs at your office. Hurry down. I have something to tell you. Shihan-jae, wait a moment. I'll be right there. Tao Lele panicked for a moment. Why was Bai Shihan suddenly at his office? He wasn't sure how to tell her that he had resigned and was planning to leave. Not long after, he ran downstairs panting. Shihan-jae. Tao Lily's eyes curved into a joyful arc. He quickly walked up to Bai Shihan. Shihan-jae, you bought a car? Tao Lile stared at the brand beside Bai Shihan, looking utterly shocked. That man actually bought her a car? Wasn't he supposed to treat her poorly? Bai Shihan smiled and nodded. She grabbed Tao Lile's hand. That's right, I just bought it today. But I have something to discuss with you. Are you free? Her eyes curved into a crescent shape. Her happiness was written all over her face. Only then did Tao Lile realize this Bai Shihan seemed different from the last time they met. Her skin was more radiant. Her face looked a bit rounder, and she seemed noticeably healthier. Most importantly, her confidence seemed to have returned. Shihan-jae, of course I'm free. What is it? Just tell me. Lele, come back and be my assistant. Let's bring Yunjae along too. I'm making my comeback. Tao Lele was stunned. He couldn't believe his ears. It took him a while to react. Really? Shihan-jae, you're not joking, are you? You're making a comeback? Yes, Bai Xian confirmed with a bright smile. I knew it. The heavens would never abandon me. Ha! Shihan-jae, what a coincidence. I just resigned, and now we're back together again. Lele, do you know where Yunjae is? Let's go find her right now. She's at Qingpu District People's Hospital, taking care of her mother. Other than the 4 hours she works each day, she's always there. All right, let's go now. Wasting no time, Bai Shihan motioned for Tao Lele. The two of them drove towards the... On the way, Tao Lele curiously asked Shihan-jae, does he know about your comeback? Bai Shihan nodded. The corners of her lips curled up slightly. Yes, he's the one who helped me negotiate the contract, and he even bought this car for me. Tao Lele's jaw nearly dropped. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. He helped you negotiate the contract? That's impossible, Shihan-jae. You're not lying to me, right? Bai Shihan shook her head. She spoke seriously. It's true. He negotiated the contract with Yinhai Entertainment, and it's a top-tier contract. Tao Lele was at a loss for words. He couldn't wrap his head around it. How could Zhang, of all people, land a top-tier... Seeing that Tao Lele had no response, Bai Shihan continued. He's really been treating me well lately. You should stop treating him so coldly. Shihan-jae, you're being so protective, I'm getting jealous, and I'm not easy to... Tao Lele pouted and dragged out his words dramatically, gazing playfully at Bai Shihan. Bai Shihan's cheeks instantly flushed red, but did not refute. Arrived at the hospital, Bai Shihan anxiously knocked on the door. The moment she saw Sister Yun, she almost burst into tears. Sister Yun, who once had jet black hair, now had some strands of white, Her once resilient face was now full of hardship, looking extremely haggard, wearing clothes washed so much they had turned pale. This appearance was exactly the same as Bai Shihan before. When she saw Bai Shihan, Sister Yun was completely. She stared at him. Bai Shihan didn't know what to say. They just looked at each other, both speechless. Then Tao Lele rushed. She was the first to grab Sister Yun's hand. Sister Yun, Shihan and I came to find. Auntie, how is your health? Only then did Sister Yun react. She looked flustered, her hands twisted together. Why didn't you tell me before coming? Look at me like this. Shihan, come in and sit down. I just put my mother to sleep. Her health is okay. She can eat and drink. One more surgery and she will recover. Speaking of her mother, a small smile finally appeared on Sister Yun's, but that smile was tinged with bitterness. She had exhausted all her resources, still owing more than 100,000. She had borrowed from all her family and friends. How could she pay for the next surgery? Bai Shihan walked into the hospital room. She lowered her head, biting her lip like a child who did something wrong. Not daring to look at Tao Lele patted Sister Yun's hand and looked at Bai Shihan. Sister Yun also looked at Bai Shihan, looking closely. After a moment, a relieved smile appeared on her face. She walked toward her and sat beside her, holding her hand. Shihan, I'm really happy that you came to. Seeing you like this now makes me even happy. It means you're doing well. In the past, I tried to stop you for your own good. Don't take it to heart. Sister Yun, I'm sorry. Bai Shihan couldn't hold it in. She threw herself into Sister Yun's arms. Tears streamed down like raindrops. Sister Yun gently patted Bai Shihan's back. She spoke softly. No need to apologize. What mother would blame her own child? I have truly treated you as my own daughter. All right, don't cry anymore. If you cry more, you'll turn into an ugly. Bai Shihan was an orphan, but ever since she graduated from university, Sister Yun had always taken care of her. From being unknown, to rising to fame in a singing competition, then to leaving the industry, Sister Yun was always by her side. She had watched her grow step by step. So when she impulsively quit the industry, the one who was hurt the most wasn't her. It was Sister Yun. Sister Yun kept gently patting Bai Shihan until she was too tired to. She lifted her red, swollen eyes to look at her. Sister Yun gave her a gentle smile. Bai Shihan bit her lip and said, Sister Yun, I want to make a comeback. Will you be my manager again? Hearing this, Sister Yun was stunned. Then she frowned slightly. Let's not talk about making a comeback. What about your child? Are you really willing to leave Cheng Yi to take care of them? Compared to Tao Lele, Sister Yun was more rational. She clearly remembered that guy didn't look like the responsible type. He didn't seem like someone who could take. But Bai Shihan nodded. Jiang Cheng is also Nai Nai's father. He will take good care of her. I trust him. Sister Yun rubbed her temples, not knowing what had happened in between. But Bai Shihan looks very determined. Even if he can take good care of the child, you must know that making sacrifices is not. Do you have a company that can sign you now? Even if you sign a contract, what kind of resources will the company provide you? Sister Yun, look. This is the contract from Yinhai Entertainment. Fan Shihan took the contract out of his bag and handed it to Sister, afraid that if he was even a little late, seeing the contract, Sister Yun was stunned. It was actually from Yinhai Entertainment, one of the top. Let me see. Saying that, Sister Yun took the contract and carefully flipped through it. Then, the more she read, the more by the end, her hands had already started to tremble. What kind of divine contract is? Did Bai Shihan kidnap the boss of Yinhai Entertainment? This is completely an unequal contract. For an entertainment company, there are so many clauses in this contract. Bai Shihan imposed unfair terms on Yinhai. For example, the top-tier resources, no restrictions on freedom, and a 2-year contract. Sister Yun suddenly looked up. Is this real? It's real, Sister Yun, look. It even has the official seal of Yin. How could it possibly be fake? Go Bai Shihan. Be honest with me. How did you sign this contract? Seeing that Sister Yun finally believed her, Bai Shihan finally let out a sigh of. Her face turned slightly red. Jiang Chengji went to Modu to get it for me. He wrote a song for Yinhai Entertainment. Jiang Chengji? Sister Yun could hardly believe her ears. Jiang Chengji negotiated the contract for Bai Shihan. Isn't this a complete fantasy? Unbelievable. Shihan, don't mind that Sister Yun doesn't. He can write songs, okay? Even if he can write songs, what kind of song would be worth a contract like this? Shihan, don't let him fool you. Sister Yun, Jiang Chengji really wrote a song. Seeing that Sister Yun didn't believe, Bai Shihan quickly took out her phone and opened Douyin. She clicked on the amnesiac account and handed it to. Sister Yun took the phone with some doubts. Even Tao Luo, who was beside her, came over. She also didn't believe that man could write songs. But the next second, Oh my god, over 100 million likes. It was exaggerated. She suddenly shouted. Then she quickly shrank her head and smiled apologetically. This is the patient room. Shouting like this would disturb the patients. Sister Yun was stunned too. What video? Over 100 million? Then she saw the account name. Amnesia, followed by Huayin, co-created Amnesia Huayin. So that's it. Sister Yun didn't even click because they had already watched this video. Sister Yun raised her head in Amnesia was also surprised. She exclaimed beside her, but this time she whispered, Amnesia. Now, the most popular and mysterious guy on the internet. By the way, it seems his last name is. The two of them were shocked, making Bai Shihan blush again. I'm happy to be recognized. He was very happy. He said seriously, yes, Jiangxi. My daughter's full name. Oh my god, the big shot is right beside. So he used to pretend to be a pig to eat a tiger. He really deserved it. At this moment, Sister Yun also calmed. She raised her head and handed the phone back to Bai Shihan. Her expression was a bit calm. Bai Shihan can live well. Her future is bright. Of course, I'm happy for her. But Shihan, with your conditions, you can definitely find a better agent. I'll pass though. Why, Sister Yun? You don't want me anymore? Tao Luo and Bai Shihan both said at the same time. Bai Shihan looked even more aggrieved. Ling Jie sighed and looked towards the patient room. You also saw my situation. My mother needs care. I really can't leave. You can hire a nanny. With today's advanced technology, you can remotely monitor the situation anytime. Tao Luo said directly. Bai Shihan also looked at Sister Yun with a puzzled expression. Sister Yun's face showed she knew she could hire a nanny. But with her current financial situation, how could she afford to do so? And staying with Bai Shihan would only drag him down. Shihan, don't persuade me anymore. I want to stay with my mother. You all go back? Ling Jie, go back. This is such a good opportunity. You must cherish it. Don't be so willful in the future. Sister Yun rubbed Bai Shihan's hair and turned her head away, no longer. Bai Shihan bit his lip. He didn't understand. Why didn't Sister Yun want to go with him? He came here with hope, but left with disappointment. On the way, Bai Shihan and Tao Luo were both silent. Bai Shihan sent Tao Luo back, then drove home alone. The door opened. I was playing a game with Nana. When I saw Bai Shihan, I was stunned. Why is he crying? He's back. Did everything go smoothly? If you don't understand, just ask me. Bai Shihan pouted and sat on the sofa. The moment he saw me, it was like he found support. He looked like he wanted to cry. Sister Yun didn't want to go with. Why? I scratched my head. In my memory, that strict woman should have spoiled Bai Shihan a lot. So why wouldn't she want to go? Bai Shihan told me everything that happened in the hospital. He spoke with grievance. I listened silently until I heard the whole story. I nodded thoughtfully. I understand. You're just a fool. You stay home with Grandma while I go out for a while. Where are you going? Bai Shihan pouted. She looked unhappy. I didn't know if she was unhappy or if she was unhappy because I wasn't with her. I'm going to find someone important to you. Fool, I first found a housekeeping company, then drove to the hospital, Bai Shihan mentioned. I didn't go directly to find Sister Yun. Instead, I first found the doctor. At the doctor's office, I learned about Sister Yun's mother's condition. Then I went up to the inpatient department. I reached the door of room 302. Before entering, I adjusted my mood. I tried to put a cold expression on my face. I gently knocked on the door. Footsteps came from inside, and the next moment, the door opened, and Sister Yun, with slightly red eyes, appeared. When she saw me, Sister Yun couldn't help. She wondered why I was here. Sister Yun didn't invite me in? My voice was calm. Sister Yun didn't say, but she still stepped aside and let me into the room. Xiaoyun, is this your friend? When I entered the room, I saw an elderly woman with gray hair and sagging cheeks lying on the bed. She was looking at me. Sister Yun hadn't answered yet when she asked me to quickly go to the bedside. I held her mother's hand. Auntie, my wife is a friend of Sister. My wife came here before. You were sleeping at the time, so we didn't disturb you. So you're Xiaoyun's friend? Young man, you're very thoughtful. It's a blessing for Xiaoyun to have friends like you. Sister Yun's mother, with a kindly look on her face. But her body, thin, and looked so pitiful. Auntie, what you said? Auntie, what you're saying? We are lucky to have Sister Yun as a friend. My wife keeps praising Sister Yun at home every day. It's gotten to the point where my ears are about. It's just a shame. This time, my wife wanted to go with Sister Yun for work, but she couldn't go because she was worried about your health. You don't know. My wife was sad when she came home. I kept nagging her. Behind me, Sister Yun's face suddenly changed. This guy turned out to be Bai Shihan. Is he here to teach? What work? Xiaoyun, what's going on? Sister Yun's mother didn't know her specific job. When she heard me say this, her gray eyebrows immediately furrowed. Mom, don't listen to his nonsense. There's no work. My work is fine. Sister Yun glared at me. She hurriedly explained to her mother. Although Sister Yun's mother was nearly 70, she wasn't foolish. She knew that it must be because she had worried that it delayed her work. Immediately, she took my hand with both of hers. She asked, "Young man, you've worked hard for Xiaoyun. This child is so stubborn. Tell me about the work." I looked awkward. I glanced at Sister Yun and then said, "Auntie, you know I'm not good with words. The job requires business trips. I originally planned to hire a nurse to take care of you. Sister Yun couldn't rest, so she wanted to take care of you herself. Xiaoyun, why didn't you tell me about this? Since the job requires you to travel, then marry Sister Yun." Sister Yun's mother turned to look at her daughter. Sister Yun panicked. She was furious with me. She really wanted to stay and take care of her mother, but the real reason was that she simply couldn't. Where would she get the money to hire a nurse? She was already mentally and physically, even for the next surgery. Sister Yun, let's talk outside. My expression remained calm, as if I didn't care about Sister Yun glaring at me. I squeezed Sister Yun's mother's hand and said warmly, "Auntie, please don't worry. We just need to talk for a moment." I stood up and left the hospital room. Sister Yun gritted her teeth, glanced at her mother, and followed me out. In the hallway, Sister Yun looked up at me and said, "What exactly do you want? Just think of me as the bad guy. I just don't want Bai Shihan to be sad. By the way, I've already paid for Auntie's surgery fee. I've also contacted the nurse. I'll give you the number. You can choose someone." I replied calmly. The height difference between us made me feel a bit condescending. "Jiang Chengji, are you pitying me?" Sister Yun laughed angrily. "You're over. It's for repayment. From now on, I'll get the salary Bai Shihan gives you. You and Lile? This time, Bai Shihan will take care of it. It has nothing to do with Yin. I don't care how much salary he gives you. Anyway, this is my money. You need to pay me back." I look like a rogue. Anyway, I've already paid for the surgery, and they didn't refund me. What you do next, I don't care. I finished speaking and didn't give Sister Yun. I turned and walked towards the exit. "Don't tell Shihan." As I was almost at the door, Sister Yun's voice came. I didn't turn around. I just waved my hand. Sister Yun watched my figure disappear outside. Her eyes were complex. Back home, Bai Shihan approached me, her face full of curiosity. I deliberately didn't look at. Instead, I happily picked up Grandma. "Grandma, what do you want to eat for dinner?" Bai Shihan's expression was completely. She looked at me in disbelief as I walked past her. "Dad's cooking is always the best," the little one said enthusiastically, completely unaware that his mom was now pouting in frustration. "All right, then Dad will cook now," I said, giving the little one a kiss on the cheek and heading to the kitchen. "Jiang Chengyi, I'm angry." Bai Shihan pouted, her face full of grief. How could he just ignore me like that? Doesn't he know I've been anxiously waiting at home? What is it? I turned around, an innocent look on my face, making Bai Shihan even angry. Before leaving, he was all sweet and called me an idiot. Now he's acting dumb? The more she thought about it, Bai Shihan plopped onto the sofa, crossed her arms, and turned her face away from me. Her temper has grown, not bad. I chuckled, deciding to stop teasing her. "When you go out tomorrow, remember to bring your 2 loyal bodyguards. With your temper, if you don't take them, you might get bullied to death." Bai Shihan turned her head sharply, her eyes shining, but her ability to change expressions amazed. Sister Yun agreed? What do you think? "All right, I'm going to cook now. Please don't disturb me." "Jiang Chengji, how did you do it?" Bai Shihan, in the end, still didn't ask how I managed to do it. Every time she asked, but that didn't stop her eyes from shining when she looked at me. Ever since Jiang Chengji changed, it seemed like there was nothing I couldn't do. I calmly enjoyed Bai Shihan's admiring gaze. Now I'm a rich man. Any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. The profits from my collaboration with Huayin have filled feeling so inflated with. When Bai Shihan told me about Sister Yun, I had already guessed the reason. She could barely afford to eat. How could she still chase dreams with you? Early the next morning, Bai Shihan got up. Unusually, I didn't go for a run either. The two of us tacitly stayed in the kitchen, making breakfast together. Bai Shihan's luggage was already packed and placed in the living room. Nai was still asleep. She didn't plan to wait for Nai to wake up. She was afraid she wouldn't be able to bear. Breakfast was ready quickly. Bai Shihan ate quietly. I sat beside her, chatting on and off. We seemed like an ordinary couple. The wife was leaving for work, and the husband was nagging her with remember to call often when you get there. Or else Nai will miss you. I've already informed them that you'll be arriving today. Shanghai isn't far. Come back when you have time. If anything happens out there, let me know. Don't just keep it to yourself like a fool. Bai Shihan listened to me while eating her porridge. She suddenly felt an inexplicable sense of loss. She didn't really want to leave home anymore. She ate this meal very, very slowly, until the porridge was almost. Then her phone rang. She was still in a daze. I had to remind her before she reacted and picked up the call. Hello, Shihan, I'm ready. Sister Yun is with me. When will you be here? I'll be there soon. Wait a little longer. All right, see you downstairs at my place in a bit. I glanced at the luggage. Time to go, right? Don't keep them waiting. Bai Shihan nodded. I'll check on Nai before I leave. Meanwhile, at the Yinhai Entertainment building, Yang Chenglin had arrived early at the office, but today she seemed distracted, unable to focus. Finally, it was noon. Checking the time, Yang Chenglin went downstairs to the entrance of the building. That guy's wife was arriving today. She wanted to see what kind of woman was being spoiled so much by. She didn't have to wait long. Soon, she saw a car with a Zhangcheng license drive into the building's parking lot. Yang Chenglin narrowed her eyes slightly. She carefully observed the three people getting out of the car. One was chattering excited, a young and energetic girl. The other was older, with strands of white hair. Just from seeing Bai Shihan's two friends, she could tell that Bai Shihan must have a great personality. Her gaze then fell on the girl walking in the middle. An oval face with a rosy complexion. Her almond-shaped eyes sparkled like a woman as gentle as water. Just looking at her, no wonder that guy was so devoted to her. Yang Chenglin adjusted her mood and quickly stepped forward. Hello, you must be Bai Shihan. I'm Yang Chenglin, the Deputy Director of Human Resources, on behalf of Yinhai Entertainment. Welcome to our. Yang Chenglin smiled and extended, looking directly at Bai Shihan. Hello, I'm Bai Shihan. Bai Shihan's voice was soft and. How did a woman like her get tricked into marrying Zhang Chengji back then? The thought crossed the mind of a complicated emotion flashed in her eyes. It's people like her, with such insight, that would have picked up Zhang Chengji when he was worthless. Let me give you a tour of the company first. After all, you'll be working here for the next 2 years. The sooner you get familiar, once the tour is done, I'll take you to the artist apartment. The group followed Yang Chenglin into the building. They were shocked as they walked through. This place was far more than the Tianmei Entertainment branch in Zhangcheng. Moreover, they could see celebrities who often appeared on trend everywhere around. This was nothing like nothing compares. Back in Zhangcheng, even a second-tier singer like Liu Chan could act high. Yang Chenglin led them into the elevator, taking them straight to the. She enthusiastically introduced the place. Along the way, many people greeted Yang Chenglin. Their faces carried a strange look of flattery. Bai Shihan was curious. When they looked at her, there was a clear trace of jealousy. She didn't understand. Wasn't Yang Chenglin just the deputy? Why was everyone looking at her that way? What puzzled Bai Shihan even more was seeing a bald middle-aged man wearing a name badge that read HR Direct. Yet, he still took the initiative to greet Yang Cheng. He even greeted her as well. Bai Shihan was slightly flustered, but politely responded. This director Zhang Chao seemed really nice, even treating her with such courtesy. Back at the Tianmei branch, no matter what position they held, the leaders always had their noses up in the air. At that moment, Yang Chenglin stopped at the end of the hallway. She pointed at a lounge ahead and said to Bai Shihan, "This will be your exclusive lounge from now on. When you're at the company with you can rest here whenever you're free." Bai Shihan looked up. The lounge door was shut tightly. It had a password lock. Her name was clearly displayed on the nameplate. As Yang Chenglin entered the passcode, she explained, "The default passcode is 6 sixes. You can change it later. All right, come check out your lounge." The door opened. Everyone stepped inside. Tao Lele was the first to exclaim, "Dr. Li, this lounge is enormous and so luxurious." Apart from Sister Yun, who remained, even Bai Shihan was completely stunned. She had never seen such an extravagant lounge before. Seeing everyone's amazed expressions, Yang Chenglin smiled. Not everyone gets this kind of privilege. Top-tier resources. Then the lounge must also be top-tier. At that moment, the door next to them suddenly opened. A glamorous and elegant woman stepped out in high heels. Behind her followed a young assistant wearing glasses. She greeted Yang Chenglin, "Sister Yang. You're personally showing them the rooms? Lena, are you heading out?" Yang Chenglin responded with a neutral expression. I have a meet and greet this afternoon, so I need Sister Yang. I'm heading out now, Lena said casually. She glanced at Bai Shihan and the others, but didn't greet them. She elegantly walked away in her high heels. Let's go too. It's already noon. The floors above are all conference rooms. Unless there's a company meeting, they're rarely used. So I won't bother showing you those. Let's go straight to the artist apartments. You can drop off your luggage and then we'll go for lunch. My treat, Yang Chenglin said with a smile. Once again, her face was filled with warmth as Bai Shihan felt she was being a little too enthusiastic. Still, her impression of the company was quite good, though something felt a bit off. Some people were being way too warm toward her. Inside the elevator, Bai Shihan suddenly asked in a soft voice, Minister Yang, are you close with Zhang Chengyi? The moment she said it, she noticed Yang Chenglin's smile falter for a second. So it was true then? A subtle shift flickered in Bai Shihan's. An inexplicable feeling rose in her heart. Well, I was the one who received him when he came. I've been handling the partnership all, so I'm more familiar with him. Yang Chenglin quickly explained. Bai Shihan only responded lightly. She said no more. The group headed downstairs. Yang Chenglin was still driving her gray Mercedes-Benz. Walking ahead, Bai Shihan slowly followed behind, feeling down. As soon as she got in the car, she started cheerfully talking until Sister Yun gave her a look. Only then did she suddenly realize that Sister Shihan seemed to be in a bad mood. But she was so happy just a moment ago. Sister Shihan, what's wrong? She curiously leaned forward, gripping the front seat. I'm fine, Lile, keep talking. This is called fine? She was utterly confused. Turning her head, she looked to Sister Yun. Sister Yun just smiled and she could tell at a glance someone was definitely jealous. Nai, be good. Daddy will act like a little tiger for you. Let's stop crying, okay? At home, my head was about to explode. Ever since Nai woke up, she had been crying for her mom. I tried to comfort her, but the more I spoke, the harder she cried. Just yesterday, I promised Bai Shihan that I would take good care of Nai. Now I just want to say one thing. I can't do this. When Bai Shihan was home before, Nai always clung to me without any fuss. So why is she acting like this now? Facing this situation, I wanted to cry too. I thought I was a champion, but reality proved I was just a bronze player. I bared my teeth, pretending to be a little, but Nai's little tears kept falling one by one. Daddy is bad, he hid mommy. I want mommy! Nai sat on the sofa, determined not to give up until I squatted in front of the sofa, scratched my head. What now? Bai Shihan had only been gone for half. I couldn't call her back so soon. She would definitely laugh at me. No way, no way. I struggled internally. The Mighty Tiger act completely collapsed. At that moment, the phone on the table, I glanced at it absent-mindedly. The next second, my eyes suddenly lit up with excitement. A savior has arrived. On the verge of tears, I quickly picked up my phone. It was a WeChat message from Bai Shihan. Just 2 simple words. Are you there? I hurriedly typed a response. I'm here. Of course I'm here. Aren't you busy? Bai Shihan, who had already finished and was resting in her apartment, looked at the message on her phone. Her expression remained, yet there seemed to be a hint of sharp. I had lunch with Minister Yang today. What kind of response was that? If you had lunch with Minister Yang, why did you have to tell me? I scratched my head, too occupied to overthink. I quickly tapped on the video call button. Bai Shihan's cool, delicate face appeared on the screen. I grinned and turned the phone towards Nai. Hi, Nai misses you. Zhang Chengji, this is what you call taking care of Nai? I pretended not to hear, putting on an innocent. The little one was crying miserably. But now that she finally saw her mom on the phone, she wiped her tears away with both hands. With a pitiful expression, she asked, Mommy, did Daddy hide you away? Do you not want Nai anymore? Nai, be good. Mommy is just out working. I'll be home very soon. Bai Shihan softly coaxed the little one from the other side. Gradually, the sobbing stopped. Nai held the phone tightly, trying to get closer to Bai Shihan. At that moment, I felt like I had been hit by a ton of bricks. I had spent so much time trying to calm, making funny faces, pretending to be a tiger. Yet one sentence from Bai Shihan worked better. She spoke a few more words, and Nai finally stopped crying completely. I let out a long sigh of relief. Mission accomplished. I turned the phone back to face me. My eyes darted around guiltily, avoiding Bai Shihan's gaze at all costs. Zhang Chengji, can you really take care of a child? Her sharp words came from the phone speaker. I was speechless. Who does she think she's looking? Today was just an accident. If I had gone out, you wouldn't have been able to calm. I looked unconvinced. Bai Shihan gave me a deep look. Does this person have no self-awareness? No, that's not what he called about. This man is changing the topic. Bai Shihan's gaze turned sharp. She pretended to ask nonchalantly. You and Minister Yang seem quite all right, I casually answered, completely unaware that I was already testing the limit, pushing the boundary. All right? Bai Shihan looked at me with a deep gaze. She repeated. I suddenly felt a chill run down my spine. All right. Are you getting used to things over there? No, I'm not. I have things to do. I'll hang up. Bai Shihan rolled her eyes at me. She decided to ignore me. The video call was abruptly cut. Only then did I belatedly realize that she was angry. For no apparent reason. I, an innocent bystander, got caught in the cross. I put down my phone and looked at the girl sitting on who was no longer distressed, but had become adorable again. She giggled. For the next 2 days, Bai Shihan called home every day. This saved me a lot of trouble. But what puzzled me was that every time she called, she only talked. Whenever it was my turn, she acted as if I owed. Her attitude was cold. I could only comfort myself. Women always have those. Just endure it, and it will pass. Bai Shihan had a lot of free time in those. She was either in the apartment or rest. The company hadn't assigned her any work. Sister Yoon kept reaching out to but unfortunately, she didn't get any results. This left Tao Luo sighing in boredom all day. Like right now, she was lying on the couch, complaining as she hugged a pillow. Sister, what is Yinhai Entertainment? They're not giving me any work. How is this any different from not? Sister Yoon also looked worried. Over the past, she had contacted many former industry songwriters, but as soon as they heard it was for Bai Shihan's, they politely declined. After all, no one is foolish. Someone who has been out of the industry, who has neither popularity nor writing songs for them would just be a waste. Let's just wait a little longer. Bai Shihan comforted Tao Lele. There will be a way. Over the past 2 days, he had also been, but he was always lacking a bit of inspiration. He was stuck, unable to come up with anything. This made him think, if I were to put in the effort, I could definitely create a song. Thinking of this, Bai Shihan couldn't help but right now it seemed like he was inferior to me in how about asking Zhang Chengji? Tao Lele suddenly sat up and suggested. Bai Shihan hesitated. The reason he left was to avoid. He thought about it carefully for a moment. Let's wait 2 more days. If there's still no progress, I'll call Zhang Chengji. All right. Tao Lele hugged a pillow. She looked a little disappointed. She didn't understand. Zhang Chengji was. Why couldn't Shihan just ask him for a song? What Bai Shihan and the others didn't know was that at this moment, in the Yinhai, Yang Shan and a group of executives, in front of them was an invitation document. Yang Shan raised his hand slightly. The noisy conference room, you all see this, right? The new song showcase. In the past, singers who gained recognition on this show, most of them are now in top-tier positions. Now, the show is about to begin again. We have 2 spots available. Let's discuss which 2 people should. After Yang Shan finished speaking, the conference room was once before long. Before long, a refined-looking man was the first to speak. I think Cheng Di is a good choice. She has a sweet appearance, a decent fan base, and she sings well. Right now, she is a second-tier singer. If she wins a spot on the new song showcase, she has a high chance of moving up to the top. As soon as he finished speaking, most people in the room nodded in agreement. Seeing this, Yang Shan decided on the first candidate. All right, Cheng Di, we still have 1 more spot. Who do you all think is suitable? As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Chao stood up. Chairman, I think Bai Shihan is also a good choice. Bai Shihan. Yang Shan suddenly recalled, isn't that the person that Zhang Chengyi recommended? Has he already joined the company? Just as Zhang Chao finished speaking, the refined-looking man spoke again. Minister Zhang, I don't think Bai Shihan is a good choice. Even a rookie would be better than him. He has no fan base, no significant work to his name. And let's not forget, he left the industry because of that left a bad impression on the audience. But Zhang Chao was unfazed and waved his hand. That's exactly why. We should choose him. Since he's making a comeback under our, we need to give him a platform. I've heard Bai Shihan, he sings very well. And he looks great too. With all that, why shouldn't we choose him? The refined-looking man frowned. Minister Zhang, you're in charge of human resources. I'm in charge of operations. Compared to you, I know better what a singer needs the most. Popularity. We're not a charity. Just because he's in the company, does that mean Minister Yin, you're talking about popularity. But do you even know who recommended Bai Shihan? Tell me, Minister Yin, how is Zhang Chengji's popularity? What if Zhang Chengji writes a song for Bai Shihan? Zhang Chengji, upon hearing his name, Minister Yin Ting's expression changed. Even he was taken aback. Could he dare say that Zhang Chengji? Of course not. His collaborative MV with Hua Yin had over 100. Rumor has it that his fan base has reached 50. Minister Yin adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. Are you certain that Zhang Chengyi will write a song? Enough, stop arguing. I can confirm it. Yang Shan raised his hand, gesturing for them to stop. Since that's the selected candidates will be Cheng Di and Bai Shi. Notify them. Seeing the chairman's final decision, Minister Yin could only. He actually had another candidate in mind, but before he could even propose them, the decision. At Tianmei Entertainment's branch, Yuan Jie rushed down the hall. Panting heavily, she arrived at the lounge. Luqian, great news. This is truly a blessing in disguise. Luqian frowned. What great news? Her cold response met Yuan Jie's. The enthusiasm in Yuan Jie's eyes dimmed in. She looked at Liu Qian. The more she looked, the more annoyed she felt. At this point, the two of them could hardly stand, but as long as Liu Qian hadn't fallen from grace, Yuan Jie still had to serve this high-maintenance client. The new song showcase, our company decided to, and they've even invited a renowned songwriter for you. This is the company's way of compensating for your previous loss. The new song showcase? Liu Qian. She looked at Yuan Jie, seeking confirmation. You mean the show where, if you place well, you can become a top-tier singer? Yes. Or do you think there are two new song showcases? Xiaoqian, this is your chance. You have to seize it. I went through a lot of trouble to get this opportunity for you. Seeing Liu Qian finally take things, Yuan Jie let out a small sigh of relief. Even her tone softened. The new song showcase? Liu Qian finally realized. She jumped up from her chair. Her excitement was beyond words. She didn't notice Yuan Jie trying to take credit. All she heard was that she was going to be famous. Xiaoqian, there are still 3 days left before it starts. Let's stay calm. This time, a famous songwriter has composed a song for you. You must perform it well. Yuan Jie advised her, hoping Liu Qian wouldn't get too excited. After all, if Liu Qian became famous, she would earn more. This time, Yuan Jie sincerely hoped she would do well. But Liu Qian didn't seem to care. Hearing Wu Fan's name made her even more You mean the Wu Fan, the so-called godfather of music? Then it's a done deal. What is there to worry about? He and I are a power duo. Ha ha ha, sighed. But on second thought, she had to agree. Liu Qian's personality wasn't great, but her singing skills were solid. And with a song from Wu Fan, she would definitely place in the top 3. Meanwhile, in the Modu artist of Bai Shihan received a call from the operation. They informed him that he was to prepare for the new song. After hanging up, Bai Shihan was completely stunned. Just moments ago, they had been how he should make his comeback. And now, the company had given him the perfect. Seeing Bai Shihan finish the call, his stunned expression caught Tao Luo's. Unable to hold back his curiosity, he asked, Shihan, who was that? The company's operations department. They told me I'm joining the new song showcase in the new song showcase. Are you serious, Shihan? Tao Luo was stunned for a moment. Then in the next second, he jumped up and grabbed Bai Shihan's shoulders, shaking him. He was beyond excited. Shihan, the company is really letting you participate. Sister Yun, who had been sitting calmly, asked, Yes, the operations department just confirmed it. Bai Shihan nodded. Even Sister Yun couldn't hide her excitement, making your grand return on the new song showcase. This is perfect. It's just that the most urgent is to find a suitable lyricist and composer. I'm trying to contact some lyricists and composers I knew. Shihan, you should also try writing a song yourself. For the next 3 days, we must find a great song to make a strong comeback. The 3 of us had a clear division. Tao Lele started selecting ingredients for today's lunch. Sister Yun picked up her phone to contact lyricists and Bai Shihan grabbed a sheet of manuscript, laid it flat on the table, and started. Meanwhile, our Zhang Chengjin was teaching Nai her second child. Nai has been very obedient, although it might be because Bai calls her every day. I still feel like I deserve some credit. At the very least, I have now fully mastered the art of babysitting. Nai clapped her little hands to accompany me. I wore a big gray wolf headpiece and pretended to be fierce and menacing. But I was actually singing a cute nursery rhyme. Little White Rabbit, open the door. Quickly open it. I want to come in. As evening fell, after dinner, Nai, who had stayed up late, couldn't resist. Her little head kept nodding downward. Even so, she still forced herself to stay awake, just to hear my bedtime story. Only then did she fall into deep. It's only 7 p.m. now. For the past 2 days, I've been thinking about what kind of song to prepare for Bai Shi, but I still haven't figured it out. There are too many songs in the world, and it's hard to sort through them all. Besides, over at Bai Shihan's side, since she arrived at Yinhai Entertainment, there hasn't been any news from her. I thought about it for a while, so I opened Douyin, planning to watch some videos. The Ordinary is still trending online. I scrolled through 3 or 4, and I could almost always find one related to it. Many netizens sighed that after listening to Xi's song, their ears could no longer accept others. They even spontaneously formed a Xi fan support, all using profile pictures. NiceGamLii's expression when she sang Courage. It was only then that at some point, they had actually turned NiceGamLii's expressions into meme stickers, and they were using them enthusiastically. Luckily, most netizens were focused on Xi herself, with only a small number of mom fans and kid being fans of NiceGamLii. Otherwise, the little one would have to wear a mask every time. That would be troublesome. Besides the ongoing buzz about only right now, the hottest topic online is the upcoming New Song Fest. The annual New Song Festival, where at least 1 or 2 hit songs emerge every year, has always been a hot topic among music fans. Fans of the participating singers this year have been actively campaigning for votes for their idols. The New Song Festival has always broadcast live from start to finish. 4 well-known veteran mentors serve as judges. A tie is impossible in voting because there's one more vote cast by a large pool of online voters. This greatly enhances audience engagement. Early the next morning, I was woken up by the ringing of my phone. NiceGamLii had already woken up. I had no idea how long the little one had been. I only saw that she was having a great time. I patted NiceGamLii's little head and grabbed my phone. The caller ID showed. It was Tao Lily, that little brat. What are you calling so early for? I yawned and asked, hello? Jiang Chengyin, you have to do something about sister. She's gone mad. She hasn't slept at all since last night. Tao Lele sounded like she was sneaking around, whispering on the phone. She had called me behind Bai Shihan's back. What happened? I frowned. Why doesn't this person take care of herself properly? I worked so hard to help her gain some weight. She better not lose it all again. Sister Shihan is participating but we don't have a song. Sister Shihan has been obsessing over writing to the point of madness. I scratched my head. I didn't expect that Bai Shihan had only been there and was already entering it. Originally, the contract with Yinhai Entertainment stated that I would write songs. This was definitely my oversight. I had been overthinking what song to write, while over there, things were already in chaos. Got it, I'll call her. Lele, thank you for looking after her. Who helped you? Taking care of Sister Shihan is my duty. All right, I gotta go. Sister Shihan is coming out. Lele quickly hung up the phone, glancing nervously at Bai Shihan like a guilty thief. Luckily, Bai Shihan hadn't slept all night. She was exhausted, too drained to notice Lele's little movement. Bai Shihan was feeling frustrated. She felt like she was so close to grasping the but every time it slipped away. She couldn't figure out what was missing. Naturally, her mood wasn't great. At that moment, my call came in. Bai Shihan quickly composed herself and picked up the phone. Hello, is NiceGamLii missing me? NiceGamLii doesn't miss you and I can't call you? I'm your husband after all. My voice came through the phone. Bai Shihan's face turned slightly red. This was the first time I had called myself her. For a moment, Bai Shihan didn't respond. Both of us fell silent. After a while, I let out a sigh over the phone. Why didn't you tell me you were entering the new song? This is something I could have easily. Why push yourself so hard? If you ruin your health, NiceGamLii would be heartbroken, I said helplessly. To me, this was clearly something that could have been done. Bai Shihan could have just told me directly, but he just wouldn't say it. Bai Shihan stayed up all night. He was already on the verge of a breakdown. And now, hearing me so late at night, Bai Shihan felt like I was questioning him. Suddenly, he felt an overwhelming sense of grievance rise in his heart. Instinctively, he bit his lip. A hint of stubbornness flashed across. Tears gradually welled up in his eye. Bai Shihan didn't say a word. She was afraid her voice would expose her current state. I couldn't see her expression. I furrowed my brows instinctively. A moment later, I suddenly heard sobbing from the other side. What happened? I found it completely baffling. I didn't even say anything significant. Relationships are really difficult to deal with. Hey, why are you crying all of a sudden? I just couldn't hold back. Bai Shihan felt so useless. Jiang Chengji. Bai Shihan spoke through her tears. Her voice was loud. To me, it sounded like a mix of anger and shame. I was stunned. It was the first time I had heard Bai Shihan speak to me like that. Her voice was trembling, full of grievance. I could suddenly imagine her little expression now. Bai Shihan pursed her lips. Her eyes were still filled with tears. She also realized she had lost her composure, but some words, if she didn't say them, she would feel extremely uncomfortable. Jiang Chengji, do you think I'm completely useless? That I just rely on you? I don't want to be like this. I'm sorry. I'm not blaming you. I'm just worried about your health. Forgetting to write the song was indeed my mistake. So that's what she was thinking. What I just said really had some problems. I only realized it now. I smiled awkwardly and said, before Bai Shihan could finish her sentence, I laughed on the other side. I was actually laughing quite happily, even though she was feeling and I couldn't even see her. Yet Bai Shihan felt even more wrong. Ever since meeting that elegant young Chengle, she suddenly felt that compared to her, she seemed utterly worthless. That woman had the perfect figure. She had grace and elegance. She was highly educated, and in his eyes, Bai Shihan could see his admiration for her. Bai Shihan's thoughts ran wild, but my voice continued coming through the phone. But Bai Shihan, I really want to crack open your little head to see what's inside. To me, you and Nai are the greatest gifts heaven has given me. Stop overthinking things. I'm telling you seriously. Bai Shihan is my wife. One and only. No one can ever replace you. I said loudly. My voice was so firm. Ever since I came into this and was accepted by Bai Shihan and Nai, we became a family. In a family, there's no such thing as dependence. There's only mutual support. Bai Shihan was stunned by my words. She never expected me to say something like, wife? One and only? Those words made Bai Shihan's already flushed cheeks turn completely red. She softly murmured, Her mood visibly improved. All right. From now on, don't have such ridiculous thoughts again. Got it? I'll send it to you tonight. Make sure to practice these next 2 days. If you fail before even getting started, won't that just make me lose face? Pfft, my voice continued from the phone. Hearing his boastful words, Bai Shihan suddenly let out a giggle, and that certain someone, who knows, anyone who doesn't know might think but that phrase, failing before even setting out, I don't even know why I suddenly sound so cultured. All right, then I want to see what kind of song this certain someone. Finally convinced by me, Bai Shihan go to sleep now. You need energy to practice your singing. Then she hung up the phone. Hearing the busy tone on the other end, I finally let out a breath. Soothing my wife felt even harder than soothing, but thankfully, Zhang was not defeated by it. I took a pen and some sheet music from I was torn about which song to choose. If people knew how conflicted I was, they'd probably be frustrated to death. Others pour their heart and soul into composing but I, on the other hand, can't even decide which one to use. After a long time, I still couldn't make up my mind. There were just too many good songs. They were all jumbled together, fighting for it. It made my thoughts completely chaotic. Feeling a little irritated, I opened the window. A cool breeze blew in, easing some of my frustration. Downstairs in the neighborhood, a young couple was parting. The boy, dragging a large suitcase, looked reluctant. The girl's eyes were brimming with tears as she... Seeing this scene, a phrase suddenly came to mind. Love rises with the wind. But when the wind stops, they were parting now. When the boy returns, will they still be together? It's uncertain, but the boy still has to go out and explore the bigger world to see more. Thinking about this, I felt a strain. Then I quickly walked to my desk. I picked up my pen and wrote "The Wind Rises" on the sheet. Right now, my mind was filled with this familiar melody. Back then, when this song came out, it was the anthem of so many people's youth. As I unfolded the sheet, memories welled up in my eye. Bit by bit, I started writing notes onto the page. Slowly, I was completely immersed in this beautiful music. Unconsciously, I started humming along. I had no idea how much time until Nai's soft voice suddenly rang out. Only then did I snap back to reality. Hungry, food. I immediately gave her a doting smile. My little baby is hungry, huh? Daddy will prepare lunch right away. A daughter's words are like royal decree. As a devoted father, I wouldn't dare delay even. I tossed the pen aside and headed straight for the kitchen. 2 hours later, after eating to their heart's content, the mother and daughter, Nai giggled happily. She even helped rub my belly. Then she let out a tiny burp. The mother and daughter instantly burst into. Right at that moment, Bai Shihan's video call came through. Her eyes had dark circles under them. Clearly, she hadn't gotten enough. Seeing the two of them lounging so lazily, Bai Shihan felt incredibly envious. Others are out there working hard for a living, and you two are at home enjoying family completely heartless. Bai Shihan pouted. For once, she even put on a pitiful expression. Her big, watery eyes silently accused us. I wasn't just slacking off. I finished writing the song. I'll send it to you later. Nai scooted closer. Mimicking me, she raised both her hands. Her big, watery eyes looked just like Bai Shihan, as if they were competing over who was more pitiful. Nai wasn't idle either. Today, Nai watched 2 fewer episodes of cartoon and learned 5 new numbers. Bai Shihan couldn't hold it in anymore. She instantly broke. She admitted she couldn't win against this little rascal. All right. Our nai were come, let mommy give you a kiss. Mwah. The little one happily puckered up her lips and rewarded Bai Shihan with a kiss as well. Hey, don't I get one too? I cleared my throat. Shamelessly, I leaned closer to the phone screen, making Bai Shihan's face turn visibly red in an instant. The most crucial part was that the little one was encouraging mommy to reward daddy too. In the end, Bai Shihan simply couldn't resist the little one's, nor could she withstand my shameless. She pouted her lips and gave me a symbolic kiss, but it didn't come with a moi. I was so rewarded by the sound that my face blossomed. I quickly ran to the bedroom. I held up the written music sheet in front of the phone camera. See? I wasn't lying, I really finished it. Your relative didn't waste their effort for It was a meaningful kind of waste. But deep inside, I was utterly shocked. It's only been a few hours, and he already wrote a song. I felt a bit defeated. I had spent so many days. I had a melody in mind, but just couldn't grasp. Yet in just a few hours, he already had a finished song. This man is simply a genius. The three of us chatted for a while longer before hanging up. I then took complete photos of the sheet music and lyrics and sent them to Bai Shi. When Bai Shihan received the message, she eagerly opened the images. A big title caught her eye. Rising Wind. What kind of divine song is this? After reading the lyrics and sheet music, she felt her heartbeat slightly speed up. Now she finally understood the true weight of those online comments. What does it mean to be poetic? An artistic masterpiece. This was it. And the scariest part? I only spent a few hours to create such a song. Yet she couldn't wait to ask me. How much was I hiding in my mind? How many secrets did I have? Thinking of this, Bai Shihan took a deep breath and picked up her phone. At that moment, I had just changed Nana's clothes, getting ready to take her out for a walk. Then I saw Bai Shihan calling me again. What now? I was puzzled. Hadn't we just hung up? Why is she calling again? On the video call, Bai Shihan's gaze was intense. She stared straight at me. I couldn't handle it. What is it? I stammered. My eyes dodged hers. What does this woman mean? Is she just showing off her pretty eyes? Can't I just video call you for no reason? Wow, she's learning fast. I had just used this excuse on him earlier, and he immediately threw it back. This woman is not only beautiful, but also holds. I thought to myself, but I just laughed it off. Of course. Jiang Chengji, what exactly are you hiding from me? Where is this coming from? How could he accuse me of something out of nowhere? I scratched my head, furrowing my brows. Seeing my reaction, Bai Shihan's face turned slightly red. She seemed a bit flushed. Her voice unconsciously grew louder. These songs of yours. Are those? What if I told you I had a sudden epiphany one? Would you believe me? Haha, yeah, pretty sudden, right? I really didn't know how to explain it, so I just scratched my nose and tried to brush it off. Bai Shihan gave me a deep look, but didn't press further. After a long silence, she suddenly said, "Thank you." Her sudden words completely threw me. I had no idea what to say, so I just nodded. Practice your singing well. Nana and I will be cheering for you. Okay, Bai Shihan replied in a soft. When she looked up, there was a hint of a smile on her face. I won't let this song go unnoticed. I nodded. I held Nana's hand and waved it in front of the camera. Nana and I are heading out now. The call ended. Bai Shihan picked up her phone. She knocked on Tao Lely's door. Lily, get ready. We're going to the company to practice. I have a new song. Really? Did Jiang Chengji give it to you? I knew he wouldn't just ignore it. Tao Lily's excitement grew. Her face lit up with joy. She immediately grabbed Bai Shihan's hand and shook it, not realizing that she had just let something slip. Bai Shihan's face flushed slightly. She glanced sideways at her. Now she finally knew who had betrayed her. The three of them drove to Yinhai Entertainment. Bai Shihan planned to stay here for the next couple of days. She wouldn't leave until she was satisfied with her, not until she truly brought Rising Wind to life. Only then did she realize how amazing this song was. After a few practice runs, she gradually found her rhythm. Her singing became more and more. If I had been there, I would have been amazed. It was almost indistinguishable from the original version I had heard before. Time flew by quickly. Before they knew it, it was already afternoon. The three of them walked out of the recording. At the same time, the door of the room opposite, a cute girl with a baby face, happened to step out at the same moment. She paused for a second upon seeing Bai Shihan, but still nodded at her politely. Bai Shihan smiled in return, acknowledging her kindness. However, behind her, a man wearing gold-rimmed glasses looked down his nose at her, not bothering to hide his disdain. After Bai Shihan walked away, the man let out a cold scoff. So disrespectful. She didn't even greet her superiors. I don't know how the company even chose her. She just joined. Wouldn't it be strange if she already knew who? Xiao Di, you have to sing your best this time. Got it? You are my chosen one. Don't embarrass your uncle. Got it, the girl replied. She was the very one who would be competing against Bai Shihan, and her uncle was none other than Yingting himself. In the following days, Bai Shihan left early and returned late. She practiced tirelessly. Her dedication even made Tao Lele feel sorry for her. Yunjie wasn't idle either. She revived Bai Shihan's Weibo account and posted an official comeback announcement. I am Bai Shihan. On August 7th at the new song event, I will make my comeback. Bai Shihan, a singer from Binhai Entertainment, I hope everyone will support me in the future. And I also hope that everyone will follow me on. Engage in discussions below. Thank you, everyone. The statement was short. Bai Shihan only had a few thousand followers left. Most of them were inactive, so after posting the announcement, it was like throwing a stone into. It didn't stir up much attention. Only a few old fans and some small marketing accounts noticed the post. Even though Bai Shihan had been away for over 2, the traffic from New Metropolis was still strong. So these small marketing accounts started editing posts through their promotion. Some people vaguely remembered this once popular singer, but they didn't take it seriously. That's old news. Who still cares about this? August 7th, the new song event officially began. But this time, the event's director, Ren Chao, was deeply worried because a song from Poetic Productions had been dominating. So their new song event couldn't even compare in popularity. But an annual event like this couldn't be postponed for just one trending song. He had no choice but to proceed with the event, as unfortunately they couldn't reach. If only they could invite him as a mentor, the event's popularity would explode. At this moment, I had no idea about any of it. I was standing in a long walking towards the stadium with Nana. Yes, after lunch, I secretly traveled to Shanghai. If I was going to support her, of course I had to do it in person. The atmosphere at the venue was electric. I looked around. Almost everyone had a light stick in hand. Some were holding signs supporting their favorite singers. The cheers and excitement filled the air. I felt like an outsider, unlike everyone else. I was sneaking in like a thief, holding only Nana in my arms, carefully searching for my seat. The competition hadn't started yet. Meanwhile, in the live stream chat, viewers were actively sharing there didn't seem to be a single comment supporting Bai Shihan. There were 4 top contenders for the chance. They were Cheng Di, Liu Qian Xiaofei Bai, and Liang Anyun. I only knew one of them, Liu Qian. That was the woman who once dared to reach out her claws toward. As for the other 3, I had never heard of them. So I didn't pay much attention to. The competition was about to begin, but the backstage area was far from calm. Bai Shihan, why are you here? Liu Qian's face darkened. She could hardly believe her eyes. She actually saw Bai Shihan in the backstage. If you can be here, then why can't our Shihan be here? Tao Lele rolled her eyes and fired back immediately. Her expression of complete disinterest made Liu Qian even. Liu Qian's expression flickered between. She never expected Bai Shihan to show up. And not just her, Tao Lele and Yunjie were right by her side. That feeling, it reminded her of back when Bai Shihan always overshadowed her. It was as if the old Bai Shihan had returned. Especially with Bai Shihan's outfit today, it made Liu Qian's face look even worse. In front of her, she felt like a mere clown. She couldn't compare to her. If there's a battlefield before the fight, that was exactly. Yuanjie quickly pulled Liu Qian away. She glanced around at the other contestants watching them and whispered in her ear, Xiao Qian, this is backstage. Don't make a fool of yourself. It's just Bai Shihan. She has nothing now. She's not worth your time. After hearing Yuan Jie's words, Liu Qian's expression softened. That's right, the Bai Shihan of today was no longer the once popular star she used. What could she use to compete with her? Besides, she had a song from the legendary musician Wu. She had nothing to fear. Thinking this, Liu Qian quickly regained her composure. She cast Bai Shihan a disdainful glance. What's the point of just singing? What's the use of just being good-looking? You're already married. What kind of good songs can you eat? The backstage drama was, of course, unknown to the. On the stage outside, the host had already stepped forward with a microphone. After a few brief words, he invited the 4 judges onto the stage. Shortly after, the 8 matchups for the competition were. Seeing the names on the big screen, I smiled. At that moment, the host's voice echoed throughout the venue. Let's give a round of applause for the first 2 contestants of today's competition. One of them is from Yinhai Entertainment, Bai Shihan, and the other is from Tianmei Entertainment, Liu Qian. 2 spotlights illuminated the back of the stage. Bai Shihan and Liu Qian stepped onto the stage under the glowing lights. It was clear that Bai Shihan was somewhat nervous. After being away from the stage for years, stepping onto it again was nerve-wracking for her. On the other hand, Luchan wore a stiff. She hadn't expected this at all. To go head-to-head with Bai Shihan, and the audience gasped. Many had never heard of Bai Shihan. They were surprised to see such a stunning beauty on stage. How have we never heard of her before? I could see Bai Shihan's nervousness, so I raised Nana high and waved her around. In that moment, Nana transformed into the ultimate cheering. She kept shouting, "Go, mommy, go." On stage, China suddenly spotted the familiar figure. She gasped and covered her, looking towards the audience in disbelief. Those two lively figures in the crowd instantly wiped away all her nervousness. At that moment, her eyes lit up with an unprecedented radiance. "Daddy, daddy." Mommy saw us. Nana's eyes met Bai Shihan's. Her tiny hands waved even more excitedly. I also looked at Bai Shihan, my face full of warmth and a gentle smile. Yes, Mommy sees Nana. The first round, Bai Shihan versus Liu Qian. Bai Shihan's debut performance. Let's give the stage to her. At that moment, the host's voice echoed across the entire. The lights gradually dimmed. On stage, only a single spotlight shone down on Bai Shihan. The background music began to play. I held Nana in my arms, closing my eyes slowly to listen. For some reason, that pure smile on Bai Shihan's face just now was deeply etched in my mind. I couldn't shake it off. Suddenly, a line of lyrics came to mind. As I walk through this world, so many moments linked. Through the years that passed, your smile appears before me unguarded. As the melody filled the air, the entire venue fell into silence. At that moment on the big screen, the title of the song appeared, Rising Wind. The name was simple, but the name of the songwriter underneath made everyone pause for a moment. This mysterious songwriter, poetic? How did Bai Shihan manage to get a song from them? Everyone instinctively perked up their ears. They were eager to hear what Poetic's new song sounded like. Backstage, Liu Qian was already stunned. If one looked closely, they would notice that her hands were trembling. The intro was simple, yet it instantly captivated the audience. Then Bai Shihan's voice followed. The wind carries echoes of the past. The venue remained completely silent. As they listened to the music, many seemed to relive the footprints of their youth, never once doubting. At this moment, Bai Shihan was fully immersed in the song. She had practiced this song countless, but this was the first time she sang it with her whole heart. Her gaze swept through the audience. There in the crowd were the two most important people. They were both here. Another masterpiece. Whether it was the live audience or those watching the live stream, they were all deeply moved by the song. In their minds, memories flashed like a slideshow. Uncontrollably, they began reminiscing about countless familiar yet distant faces, until finally, one smiling face remained the person they could never forget from their youth. So this is Rising Wind, a wind that had long been buried deep in a wind called youth. The song continued. The audience was utterly captivated. The massive stadium was silent. Everyone was lost in their memories as they backstage. Lucian collapsed onto the floor. Her face was ashen. She no longer had the courage to perform. Bai Shihan had delivered the most dazzling with flawless vocals and a song that felt nearly invincible, completely shattering Liu Qian's confidence. Yuan Jie stood nearby, her eyes filled with Who was the real master of music? She had heard the song written for Liu Qian, but now, after hearing Rising Wind she realized something. That song wasn't even worthy of comparison. Yuan Jie let out a bitter laugh. Being outclassed was simply being outclassed. She had always been overshadowed in the past. Now that Bai Shihan was making a strong, she was still completely outshined. And it wasn't just backstage. Even the judges at the panel were deeply moved by the song. As veteran musicians and industry veterans, they couldn't help but envy Bai Shihan. If only they had had a song like this when they debuted, perhaps they could have achieved the heights of pop royalty long ago. This It seemed like just a simple song. Returning home, seeing the same person, yet, in the hearts of the audience, an overwhelming sense they too wished to leave home and return with their hearts, but regrets are regrets. It was as if they could see that faint and the warm smiling face slowly fading away. At this moment, in the live stream chat, someone wrote in the comments, "Why did we drift apart?" Turns out it was because the wind, the originally quiet comment section, suddenly countless people with tears in their eyes followed along. At this moment, all netizens completely broke. After listening to this song, their hearts were filled with regrets of youth. They cried as they wrote comments, sharing their own stories of youth. Eventually, everyone unified under one phrase. Why did we drift apart? Turns out it was because the wind rose. And at that moment, Bai Shihan's performance gradually came to an end. His voice, like aged wine, seemed to soothe the hearts of the crowd, as if giving youth an answer. The ending of the song felt like a closure for himself. Everyone suddenly woke up from the dream of youth. Upon waking up, life still goes on. Those memories are just sentimental reflections. Though memories are filled with a youth without regrets, can it still be called youth? At some unknown moment, the backstage viewership numbers skyrocketed, far surpassing the ratings of Director Ren Chao wiped the tears from his eye. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. This is poetry. Someone who makes you cry and laugh. Who exactly is this person? How could they have such charm? When Bai Shihan first arrived, Ren Chao had completely dismissed him as a nobody. If not for Yinhai Entertainment's, he would have kicked Bai Shihan off the show. But he never expected things to change so quickly. Now he wished he could worship Bai Shihan. A good person, with everything one could ask. Ren Chao felt no shame in his change of attitude. Making money is no shame in that. On stage, the singing continued. Ren Chao set aside his stray thoughts and kept listening. Free. Love. As the music faded, the lights turned on again. Bai Shihan slowly emerged from the lingering emotion. He came back to his set. Nervously, he looked at the audience. The silence from the audience made him feel a little uneasy. I slowly opened my eyes. Seeing Bai Shihan's nervous expression, I couldn't help. Bai Shihan sang beautifully, almost comparable to the original singer Yu. Nai curiously looked at the uncles and aunts around, not understanding why their eyes were filled. Clearly, Mama's singing was so beautiful. At his young age, he couldn't comprehend that they were reminiscing about, but none of that mattered to Nai. He stretched out his little hand and tried his best to applaud for his mother. In the next moment, as if by chain reaction, thunderous applause erupted across the. With tears in their eyes, they all showed their support for Bai Shihan on stage. The live broadcast chat of the new song event was flooded with comments. As expected, every poetic production is a master. Never disappointed. Amazing, I cried. This isn't just wind, this is clearly a tornado. It completely unearthed the memories I've buried for years. On stage, Bai Shihan bowed deeply to the audience. Then he glanced longingly at me and Nai. Before stepping back, the competition continued. Up next was Liu Qian's performance. At some point, Liu Qian had already gotten up from the floor. Watching Bai Shihan pass by, a deep sense of helplessness welled up in his heart. He didn't even know how he walked onto the stage. Even when the music started, he was momentarily stunned before reacting, but it was already a beat too late. A bad start from the beginning. The audience let out a collective boo. This only made him more flustered. His singing went off key. He muddled through the whole song. Backstage, director Ren Chao watched the live ratings and frowned. What is Liu Qian doing? He knows how to sing. He was always great before. How did things turn out like this today? But Ren Chao only felt slightly frustrated. He quickly stopped over. After all, Liu Qian was bound. There was nothing worth worrying. The viewership ratings had already exploded. Without a doubt, the final vote ended in a crushing 5-0 victory. A message from Bai Shihan arrived, asking me to meet him at the backstage exit. Seeing this, I lost interest in the rest of the competition. Holding Nai in my arms, I left the venue. As soon as Bai Shihan stepped out, he saw me holding Nai from afar. The warm orange streetlight cast long shadows of us on the ground. A sudden wave of happiness surged in Bai Shihan's heart. It was the kind of joy a husband feels, waiting with his child for his wife to come home from work. Ordinary, simple, yet incredibly warm. The moment Bai Shihan stepped out, I saw him immediately. He looked stunning tonight, but this beauty was different from how he looked on stage. On stage, he was like a celestial being descended, radiant and dazzling, so breathtaking that one wouldn't dare approach. Nai couldn't wait any longer and wriggled out of my arm. With tiny steps, he ran straight toward Bai Shihan. Bai Shihan immediately crouched down, his face blooming into a bright smile. He caught Nai in his arms as the little one lunged. At that moment, I greeted Tao Lele and Sister Yun. Bai Shihan, still holding Nai, stood up. I looked at Bai Shihan with a smile. So, how was the surprise? Not bad. A faint blush spread across Bai Shihan's cheek, but he still looked straight at me. Very surprising. Let's find a place to eat. Nai and I haven't even had dinner yet. I'm fine. But Nai's little belly has been growling. Hearing this, Sister Yun stepped forward. Let's go back to the apartment. We still have ingredients there. Home-cooked food is the safest. With that, we all walked side by side toward They just don't know. At this moment, their actions were completely seen by Liu Qian, who had just come out from, and Sister Yuan. Liu Qian was holding her phone at this, watching Bai Shihan's departing figure, her eyes filled with resentment. She suddenly thought of a good idea, an idea to ruin Bai Shihan's reputation. Since she had already lost, she would drag Bai Shihan down with her. Something she couldn't have. Why should Bai Shihan be able to get it? The internet has no memory, but when you appear in its view, its memory becomes immensely strong. Bai Shihan's past experiences started being dug up and posted on Weibo. 2 years ago, a popular starlet's romance was exposed. But as soon as a new controversy, some unethical media quickly caught the scent and started exploiting the topic for hype. Suddenly, Bai Shihan's topic became hotter and hotter, even overshadowing the Starlight Gala. The internet was split into 2 camps. Some people believed that since Bai Shihan had already left the industry due to her, she shouldn't return. They couldn't support a singer who was already married. Others felt that as long as she sang well, whether she was in a relationship was her own. Eventually, Yinhai Entertainment stepped in to speak. Congratulations to our company's Bai Shihan. We hope everyone will continue to support her. Once again, we announce in the next competition, Bai Shihan will once again perform her poetic songs. Additionally, in this seventh, Bai Shihan songs will be compiled into an album and released after the new song of Yinhai Entertainment official announcement. The internet was instantly in an uproar. Not only had she written songs for Bai Shi, but more than just one song. It was unbelievable. In an instant, Yinhai Entertainment's statement and Bai Shihan's top skyrocketed to the top of the trend. Even the song The Wind Rises could only settle for second, while the new song event could only pitifully stay at third place on the shivering in fear regarding the online frenzy. We had no idea at all. After dinner, Bai Shihan walked me back to the hotel while Nai stayed in the apartment with him tonight. Ever since I transmigrated here, I had barely been alone with Bai Shihan. Now suddenly, it was just the two of us and the atmosphere turned silent for a moment. I didn't know what to say. I glanced at Bai Shihan, who was driving, then turned my head and quietly gazed at the night scene. Bai Shihan noticed my gaze and couldn't help but sneak a glance at me, but quickly looked away. His heart was beating a little too fast. His earlobes turned red. He forcefully suppressed the strange fear, kept his eyes forward, pretending not to care. All the way to the hotel, neither of them exchanged a single word. If someone else saw them, they would probably think these two were complete. The car stopped in the hotel parking lot. Only then did I turn my head to look at Bai Shihan. Go back now. Be careful on the way. Call me when you get there. Bai Shihan lowered his head and didn't respond. Instead, he unbuckled his seatbelt, opened the door, and got out first. My heart skipped a beat. What did he mean by that? I secretly swallowed, pretended to be calm, and followed him out. Want to come up for a bit? I asked, my voice slightly trembling. Inside the narrow elevator, I could clearly hear my own pounding heartbeat. Bai Shihan wasn't doing much better. He didn't know what was wrong with him just now. When he heard me tell him to go back, he suddenly didn't want to leave so soon. Damn it, why didn't I just go home earlier? What do I do next? The two were married because of ever since marrying me. Since then, he had never been into me. He stared at his toes, not daring to lift his head, not knowing what to do. Before either of us could think further, the elevator doors opened. The third floor had arrived. The room I booked for tonight was on this floor. I instinctively stepped out of the elevator. Bai Shihan hesitated before following, swiping the key and opening the door. I walked inside. There was only one bed in the room. Bai Shihan was completely dazed at this moment. He didn't even know how he ended up inside or how the door got closed behind. The only sounds left in the room were our breathing. It felt like what would happen next was inevitable. But Bai Shihan suddenly felt panicked. He wasn't ready yet. He had only just started to accept. He wasn't ready for anything more. But I had no idea what Bai Shihan was thinking. All I knew was that a woman going to a man's hotel room late at night to sit for a while had a certain meaning. I had been single for years, but that didn't mean I had no. Even if I'd never eaten pork, I had at least seen pig. When it came to Bai Shihan, I had asked myself many times. At first, I just wanted to make it up to him. Then I gradually felt sorry for him. Then I started to like him a little. Then I came to admire him. And finally, I understood my own. I sat down at the edge of the bed, looking at Bai Shihan, who was still standing there with taking a deep breath. I reached out and held his hand. I lifted my head and finally looked straight into Bai Shihan. But the next second, the warmth in my heart instantly cooled. His beautiful almond eyes were filled with panic, uneasiness, and fear. I let out a deep sigh and slowly released Bai Shihan's hand. I'll wash up first. My voice was hoarse. Bai Shihan still kept his head down, and in a trembling voice he softly asked. I washed with cold water for a long. Only then did I completely calm down. I came out of the bathroom. When I saw Bai Shihan again, I suddenly smiled. He was still lowering his head, standing there dumbfounded, like a little quail. This idiot doesn't know that this would tempt someone to commit a crime. Let's go. I'll take you downstairs. Bai Shihan suddenly looked up at me. Huh? Hurry up. I angrily reached out and knocked on his head. Bai Shihan held his head in pain. His watery eyes stared straight at me. His little mouth also pouted. Whoa, what a little demon. I couldn't handle it. Does he not know his own charm? Hurry up. If you don't leave now, you won't. You're acting all wrong now? I opened the door, feeling emotional. Only then did Bai Shihan rush out. Seeing me close the door, he patted his chest and sighed in relief. I walked Bai Shihan downstairs, watching him get into the car. I stood there quietly, waiting for him to drive. Who knew that as soon as the car started, Bai Shihan suddenly rolled down the window, staring straight at me. His cheeks flushed. Jiang Chengji, why don't you want to? I sighed deeply. What do you think? But things like this need to be mutual. When my dear wife is ready, I'll be more than happy. Bai Shihan's face turned red all the way to his neck, but his eyes only became brighter. I'm leaving. Drive safely. Call me when you get home. The car drove away. I let out a bitter smile and went back to my... Just as I finished my shower, I received a call from Bai Shihan. He had already arrived at his... We wished each other good night. But little did we know, a post about Bai Shihan suddenly appeared on Weibo. It was climbing up the rapidly trending on the platform. Until the next day, this post had already reached the 10th place on Bai Shihan's extramarital affair with mysterious singer Shi. The post sounded absolutely... It mainly claimed that Bai Shihan and I were already married and had a daughter together. But our relationship had always been rocked. That Bai Shihan seduced Shi to get songs from him. That was the only reason Shi wrote. The post was written so convincingly that many marketing accounts... It even attracted a flood of comments. By early morning, it had successfully made its way. At first, netizens were skeptical. But the overwhelming number of comments, along with widespread marketing accounts reposting, made them go from doubt to belief. Soon, they were criticizing Bai Shihan. As more people woke up and saw the post, it caused an even bigger uproar. The post and Bai Shihan's Weibo had taken the number 1 and number 2 spots on the trending list. And at that moment, I had just finished my morning run, completely unaware of the situation. Bai Shihan had trouble sleeping last. Every time he closed his eye, all he could see in his mind was the moment I held his hand. Because of that, when he woke up in the morning, he had dark circles under his eyes and looked exhausted. Yunjae and Tao Lele exchanged glances, both filled with concern. They thought Bai Shihan had seen the trending news, which was why he couldn't sleep all night. Cao Luo's eyes were filled with anxiety. He walked up to Bai Shihan, who had just sat down at the dining table. Shihan-jae, what did Zhang Chengyi say? Is he not planning to clear things up? In situations like, it's best for Zhang Chengyi to personally clarify the matter. If Bai Shihan makes a statement instead, it will only backfire. Bai Shihan's mind was muddled. Hearing Tao Lele's words, he was momentarily confused. He had no idea what they were talking about. Clarify what? Zhang Chengji, did something happen again? Tao Lele was speechless. Only then did she realize that Bai Shihan had no idea what was happening. She was even more furious, hadn't come out to support Shihan yet. The online rumors were practically drowning Shihan's Weibo. Shihan-jae, and you're still thinking about him? He's fine, but you're the one suffering. You should check your Weibo. It was only from Tao Lele's tone that Bai Shihan realized. He took out his phone and opened Weibo. The site was a flood of private messages and comments. He clicked into them. Seeing the sheer number of malicious messages, his fingers trembled slightly. He took a deep breath, then continued scrolling. 9 out of 10 messages were insults directed at him. Exiting the private, he finally saw the viral post and the numerous marketing accounts spreading it. A moment later, Bai Shihan put down his phone and resumed eating breakfast. His expression was calm, as if nothing had happened at all. Seeing Bai Shihan act like this, Tao Lele became even more worried. With so much controversy online, could Shihan-jae handle it? Shihan-jae, what do we do? Aren't we going to do anything about it? Bai Shihan patted Tao Lele's hand, comforting her instead. The innocent will always... As long as we know the truth, that's enough. Hearing this, Tao Lele sighed internally, saying the innocent will always... But public opinion didn't care about innocence. Bai Shihan's eyelashes fluttered slightly. In truth, he wasn't as calm as he seemed. But since Zhang Chengji had always posted songs it meant he didn't want others to know his... If that was the case, then Bai Shihan couldn't expose his identity either. Meanwhile, the online audience was still waiting for the main person to speak. They waited for a long time. Finally, Bai Shihan updated his Weibo. They eagerly clicked on it, and then they all froze. They had expected a long public relations statement, but instead, it was just 4 simple words. The innocent remain. What was this? Did he think this would satisfy them? As a result, online discussions became even more aggressive. At Zhangcheng Tianmei Entertainment, Liu Qian was laughing with joy. Even though she had been scolded by the company after return, she still couldn't contain her excitement. She had successfully dragged Bai Shihan down. Sister Yuan stood beside, watching Liu Qian's uncontrollable laughter. She felt like the woman in front of her had She had only found out about this incident this morning. Liu Qian had kept it even from her own manager. Liu Qian, do you even know what you're doing? This is defamation. If someone actually takes legal action, you're finished. Hearing Sister Yuan's word, Liu Qian just glanced at her with dissatisfaction. How am I defaming them? Who knows if there's actually something going on between... If nothing happened, then tell me, how could someone like Bai Shihan, who had get Shi to write songs for him, I bet they're guilty of something. Look, he hasn't even denied it. Haha, the innocent remain innocent? Such arrogance. Sister Yuan remained silent, her expression dark. Looking at the deranged Liu Qian, she could only hope that Liu Qian's claims were true. Otherwise, she would have no choice but to abandon Liu Qian. Meanwhile, I was enjoying a leisurely bath in my hotel when suddenly my phone outside started ringing like an urgent call. Seeing the caller ID, I was a little surprised. Why was he calling me? Minister Yang, what a surprise. What brings you to call a jobless person like me? Jobless? You still have the nerve to call yourself that? Do you know that ever since you appeared, the trending searches have almost been On the other end of the call, Rainy Yang said impatiently. I scratched my head. Thinking about it, that seems to ever since I released A Lifetime with You, the trending topics have been all about me nonstop. Who told me to be so attractive? She then asked what the actual reason for the call was. I shamelessly praised myself, then got serious. Rainy Yang gritted her teeth. She really wanted to beat this man to death. What do you mean by calling to? Can't I just call without a reason? Aren't we friends? Rainy Yang was even more annoyed. Do you think I wanted to call you? It's because of your woman. Tell me, what are you doing? Bai Shihan is being slandered like crazy, and you're still sitting around. Bai Shihan being slandered. I immediately became serious. What happened to Bai Shihan? His unprecedented seriousness made Rainy Yang feel a bit bitter. It seemed that whenever it was about Bai Shi, this man would take it extremely serious. Check the trending searches yourself. Goodbye. She hung up. I frowned. I didn't understand what this woman was but now was not the time to dwell on that. I quickly opened Weibo. At first glance, I saw the top trending posts. The moment I read the headlines, my face darkened. After reading through all the posts and checking the messages and comments on Bai Shihan's Weibo, my expression turned completely grim. I was so furious I laughed. Do they really think my woman is easy to bully? And that foolish woman, why didn't she tell me about something this big? Trying to handle it alone? I just want to ask that idiot, does she even consider me her husband? But before questioning her, there's something I need to do first. Since someone wants to play, let's make it a fun game. Liu Qian never expected that the slap in the face would come so swiftly that before he could even enjoy his moment he had already fallen into panic. He never imagined that Amnesia would turn out to be that former pretty boy. At 10 a.m., people were still gossiping about Bai Shihan's scandal. But then, a short video of Amnesia surfaced as another key figure in the incident and a mysterious figure with tens of millions of followers. His newly uploaded video was instantly seen by It didn't even need Douyin's algorithm to push it. His fans voluntarily boosted it to the top. With poetry revealing his face, it became a major event. No one expected that the mysterious would choose this to step forward without hesitation. He could have stayed silent. After all, he wasn't the main target of the attacks this time. But when people clicked on the video, they realized this wasn't a simple clarification. This was a love declaration mixed with a call-out video. In the video, I wore a well-fitted casual outfit. Even though my expression was serious, I still caught everyone's attention. No one expected poetry to be this handsome. They were in love, but what came next felt like a heavy blow to the netizens. Hello, everyone. I am Amnesia. I just woke up and I saw some very unpleasant things online. Many people are questioning why I wrote songs for Bai Shi, and some are even spreading rumors about her having an affair. I just have one thing to ask. What's wrong with writing songs for my wife doesn't want to deal with you all, but I won't just sit back and what the innocent will prove that doesn't exist. I originally wanted to stay low-key to interact with you as just an ordinary person. But instead, I won't pretend anymore. I'm laying it all out. My name is Jiang Chengji. You can probably find me online. Back then, Bai Shihan and I both left the industry for love. Later, we got married and have been together ever since. As for why I use the name, because our daughter's name is Jiang Shi. Now, do you all understand? Here, I also have something to say to the one who posted the rumors, as well as those. Sorry, but I've gathered all the evidence. None of you are getting away. Oh, and to those paid trolls and the teams backing you, every single one of you, get ready for a legal notice. All right, that's all I have to say for today. I advise those involved to think twice. Meeting adjourned. Everyone who saw the video was utterly shocked. After all this arguing, it turns out they were a married couple all along. Everyone knew that Amnesia was probably married. After all, back then, Nai had appeared in his Douyin video, but no one expected that Amnesia was actually Jiang Chengji. My video spread like wildfire at that moment. Just as everyone was still discussing my post, Yinhai Entertainment's Weibo quickly followed up. they released an official notice. Hello, everyone. This is the legal department. On behalf of Mr. Jiang, we will continue to track the false and defamatory remarks. We have already sent legal notices to the original poster, backed by certain companies. Not long after, Weibo's official account also stepped in. Good morning, Weibo users. After verification, we have now banned 1,500 accounts. We want to remind everyone once again, the internet is not a lawless place. Spreading rumors will only lead to regret. With Weibo's official statement, it shot to the top of the Han's latest Weibo post also took the second spot in just a short time. Obsessed wife lover and the innocent will prove themselves became trending phrases. Now, the netizens' favorite phrase to spam, my wife doesn't want to deal with you, but I'm an obsessed, I won't let you off. That doesn't exist. In the Modu artist apartment, Bai Shihan was still cuddling. Cao Lile rushed in like the wind, phone in hand, her face beaming with excitement. Sihanjae, look, Zhang Chengyi posted a video. Bai Shihan took the phone and opened the video. My voice came through the speaker. Nai curiously leaned, her big eyes staring intently. That's Daddy's voice. Daddy went inside the phone again. After Bai Shihan finished, her small lips parted in surprise. Tao Luole was still talking excitedly beside her. Sihanjae, do you know what people are calling Zhang Chengyi now? Obsessed wife lover. Haha, it's too funny. Hearing Tao Luole, Bai Shihan's face turned, a subtle sweetness bubbling up in her heart. Who wouldn't want to be pampered? Thinking about it, Bai Shihan put down Nai and quickly walked back to her room, staring at the dial screen. She suddenly hesitated. What should she even say when he tell him? Why did you say such embarrassing things? Wouldn't that just mean she was admitting she was embarrassed? Or should she say, you're so deep in love with me, I believe you? No. Wouldn't he think she was being petty? A small-minded, grudge-holding Bai Shihan flopped onto her soft bed, burying her face into the blanket, acting like a little girl. In the end, she mustered up the courage, picked up her phone, and called him on WeChat voice chat. Bai Shihan's small face was still buried and turning bright red. She mumbled in a muffled voice, what are you doing right? Before Bai Shihan could hear my answer, she first heard my laughter. What are you doing? Trying to suffocate yourself with the blanket? Bai Shihan gasped in shock, lifting her flushed face in panic. She was startled. How did I know what she was doing? Then she saw her phone screen. That's when she realized she had accidentally started a video call. The words absolute embarrassment were written. Bai Shihan stared blankly at me on the other side of the screen, rubbing her nose off. This flustered Bai Shihan was unexpectedly adorable. The next second, Bai Shihan let out a tiny whimper. Then, like an ostrich, buried her face back, refusing to come out again. So embarrassing. You're not allowed to laugh. Her muffled voice came from under the covers. I finally managed to stop laughing. All right, I won't laugh. I was just about to head to the apartment. Are you coming to pick me up? Then wait for me there. Han still didn't ask me why I posted that video. Some things just don't need to be asked. But even though she didn't, I brought up the topic first. But there's something I have to say. Bai Shihan, you were being slandered so bad. Why didn't you tell me? Do you really think I'm that clueless? Bai Shihan bit her lip and fell silent. Did she really think Zhang Cheng? In reality, Bai Shihan felt a little lost. Did she like Zhang Chengji? She asked herself in her heart, but the answer came almost immediately. Yes, she liked him, the changed version of him, the one who cautiously took care of her and his thoughtful actions in daily life. They made her happy, and when he looked at her, his eyes were filled with genuine care and purity. How could anyone not like someone like that? It's just past experience. That made Bai Shihan hesitant to open her heart. I waited for quite a while, but I still didn't get Bai Shihan's response. Then I also remained silent for a long. My voice finally rang out again. But this time, my voice clearly carried a sense of disappointment. It's okay if you don't want to. I'm downstairs. Come pick me up. The video call ended. Only then did Bai Shihan snap out. Recalling my tone just now, her heart suddenly ached like being pricked by a needle. Did she disappoint me? Bai Shihan hurriedly got up from the bed. She suddenly wanted to see me as soon as possible. Thinking this, her steps unconsciously quickened as she ran toward the door. Tao Luo was still wondering why. Bai Shihan was staying alone in her room in the middle. The next moment, he saw Bai Shihan rushing out, stumbling slightly as she left. Then she ran straight out the door. Tao Luo frowned. Sister Shihan seems to be crying. Bai Shihan was indeed crying. She didn't want to, but tears kept welling up in her eyes. She was suddenly afraid that because of her, I would be hurt, or even leave them. Memories of recent times flashed through her mind. She became even more frightened. Clearly, Jiang Qingji had been trying so hard to get closer. Why was she hesitating? Until the car arrived downstairs at the hotel. Baishan saw the tall figure standing in the sunlight. Only then did she finally breathe. The car stopped beside me. I got in, my emotions seemingly unchanged. After getting in, I simply gazed out the window in silence. Bai Shihan didn't start the car. She simply turned around, staring intently at the side of my face. She took several deep breaths. Then finally, Bai Shihan said, "Jiang Chengyi, I'm sorry." Only then did I turn my head, looking at Bai Shihan's slightly red eyes. Actually, when Bai Shihan did not give a clear answer, I also felt very uneasy. I forced a bitter smile. Maybe I never really had anything to begin with. No need to apologize. Bai Shihan, actually, I'm not the Jiang Chengyi you think I am, so you don't have to feel guilty. Then, are you Jiang Chengji? Bai Shihan still looked directly into my eye. Her gaze was still as gentle. I suddenly remembered our conversation at the amusement park before. Bai Shihan asked me, "Who are you?" I answered, "I am Jiang Chengji." Now Bai Shihan was asking me the same question. I scratched my head. "I am Jiang Chengji." "Then you are the Jiang Chengyi, I think." Hearing Bai Shihan's firm response, I suddenly clenched my fists. I was trying hard to suppress my trembling. But I was a little scared. I was afraid that one day, you all wouldn't need me. Bai Shihan suddenly interrupted me. Seeing me like this, she felt distressed. She reached out and tightly grasped my trembling hand. Then she gently leaned against me. "Jiang Chengji, you are Nai's father, and you are my husband. No matter what happens, no matter when, we will never leave you. Also, Nai and I don't need much. We admire your talents, but those are not the most important thing. The most important thing is that you are with and you treat us well. That is enough for us." I held her close. Her words were soft. Nothing could bring me more peace. I embraced Bai Shihan and suddenly smiled. I had received the answer I wanted. That was enough. From then on, aside from Bai Shihan and Nai, nothing else could shake my resolve. The two shared a brief moment of warmth. Then Bai Shihan shyly, she suddenly jumped out of my arms, her face flushed with heat. This was already the best she could do for now. I didn't push her further. I just had a silly smile on my face. She glanced at my silly grin with a charming look. Was this fool really so easy to satisfy? The car slowly drove away from the hotel. Yet in just this short moment, both of their mindsets had completely... How could this be? Impossible. How could it be that pretty boy, Jiang Chengji? Smack! Inside Tianmei Entertainment's artist apartment, Liu Qianru went into a friend. On the table lay a document, a lawyer's letter from Yinhai Entertainment's. He had been exposed. Now, Tianmei Entertainment had already ordered. He knew he was finished. In just a few days, he would be sitting in the defendant's seat. Not far away, Yuanjing watched the scene unfold with Schaden. As a cunning old fox, he knew things were never as simple as they seemed. And sure enough, the situation had spiraled even further than he had expected. Jiang Chengji lost his memory? He hid it really well. Sister Yuan sighed inwardly. Of course, she knew about Jiang Chengyi. 2 years ago, the incident with Bai Shihan had caused an uproar in the company. No one had faith in that pretty boy back then. But unexpectedly, she had to admit, Bai Shihan had an incredible eye for people. "I refuse to accept this. Give me your phone." Lu Qian gasped for air, his bloodshot eyes burning with anger. His own phone had already been smashed in his first. Sister Lian only gave him a glance, her face full of what is there to be unconvinced? Singing? You can't compete with him. Looks? You're not as good. Even when it comes to choosing a man, you lost. And now you're telling me you refused. Lu Qian suddenly snapped his head. He stared straight at Sister Yuan. Sister Yuan remained in. She glanced at him with disdain. "Did I say something wrong? Once you get locked up, our contract will naturally be terminated. You understand the company's stance. What redemption? They abandoned you long ago." "Why?" Lu Qian gritted his teeth. He still couldn't believe the company had discarded him. "Why? You're still asking why? The company needs moneymakers. You have no value left. Of course they threw you away. As someone who's been through it, I'll give you some heartfelt advice. You still have some good looks. When you get out, find an honest man and marry him. Stop struggling." Should I thank you then, dear Lu Qian sneered. His laughter was filled. At that moment, they finally tore off their masks. "In that case, Sister Yuan, can I borrow your phone for a moment? Just once. Let's at least have a proper ending." Sister Yuan glanced at him and saw the eerie grin on his face. Her brows furrowed in suspicion. "What are you planning?" Lu Qian kept smiling, but his smile sent shivers down her spine. Even Sister Yuan felt a chill run through her body. "What am I planning? A fight to the bitter." Baishan, why does she always outshine me in everything? I worked so hard to get gone, but now she just had to crawl back like a ghost. An orphan like her, why is she always better than me? Even in finding a man, she has to crush me. Heh. But now that I know Shi Yi is actually Zhang Chengji, I still have one last trump card. If I can't ruin Bai Shihan, then I'll make sure Zhang Chengyi is complete. If I'm going down, then no one else gets to stay clean. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it helpful, please don't forget to like, subscribe to NiceGamLii channel, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any new content. Your support is a huge motivation for me to keep creating better videos. Once again, thank you so much, and see you in the next video.